let's try to be more prepared for what's coming up in our meeting.
Transparency was gone. That's wrong. I don't care. Wrong. You said no. Here, don't discuss. Wrong. Busting. Right. Chief Antoine, I want to call y'all by the first name because I'm sorry. I'm having a problem because I know you as your first names. I've talked to Danielle about things. We are tearing this city down by demonizing our employees. But what you did today, I think, was wrong, Mr. City Manager. You can't publicly say nobody was wrong and then you fire them. So we need to clear this up. Why did this happen? I want to know what transpired from the last conversation we had publicly and privately that it turned into this. I am disappointed in how this went down. Because yesterday when we talked, nothing like this was going down. What transpired from the last conversation we had to this? I don't mean to call you out, but if this is what this is all about, let everybody hear it. I'm sorry. I'm not happy with this. I have been upset since I got this call. What I was doing this morning was trying to help the city on that sewer complex out there. And then I get this call. I guess it wasn't none of my responsibility to do what I was trying to do with the property owner, to try to alleviate some of this problem. What efforts did I do today that I have to hear this? I'm in support of every one of y'all. We live here in High Springs. This is our home. And you're right, we can't keep this bickering going on. It's got to stop because everybody sees it. But when we're all out here trying to do it, our city employees, and then we're not giving them what they need to do their jobs, that's what I have a problem with. We are not doing what we're supposed to do with our budget. Our Public Works Department is being trashed by people leaving because they're sick of what they see around here, that we don't give them the equipment, we don't give them the manpower, and we don't pay them. Why would anybody want to be in a ditch full of crap, blowing out a thing, and they're making $15, $16 an hour? I'm ashamed of how we are right now. And then after what happened today, I don't know what else to say. I'm floored by what happened today. I'm disappointed, Jeremy. So I guess I'll stop it there before I just keep rambling.
Commissioner Grunder.
I have a couple questions for that. And I went back and watched. I used verbiage like we, verbiage like it's unacceptable. So I'm confused as to the language that I used or that was an issue. Unfortunately, I think that a lot of stuff we do up here is very uncomfortable, and it's not personal toward anybody ever. It is simply business. And unfortunately, the second we put our names on those ballots, we have accepted the role of having to do things that are uncomfortable a lot of times. The city manager, I think, is well aware that the job he took was going to be uncomfortable at times. Not unfortunately. People need to be held accountable. That does not mean you're trashing your employees to hold them accountable. In fact, it's quite literally the opposite. And I think that we do have great staff, and I don't believe I've ever seen a commissioner openly trash a city employee in a meeting. Frustrations do come out. That should be okay, because I think that shows passion toward what we're doing up here. We don't get to direct city employees as to how they will do things. The only one we can do anything with is talk to the city manager, but we cannot direct him on how he's supposed to do stuff. We are an oversight committee almost. We have to kind of pick the vision and move it forward that way. I think a lot of the frustration comes in because a lot of these commissioners up here are too involved in the weeds. And they dive a little, probably more than they should, into things that are operational day-to-day business that, quite frankly, in our charter is a violation for us to get involved in. And I don't know what language you're talking about. But I went back and watched the whole interaction, and the time and place to trying to think of the best words to use. Professionalism does matter. Professionalism should be held to the highest level, especially inside of here. I think that unfortunately goes to the wayside sometimes by individuals when fear of being held accountable is on the line.
Commissioner Whites.
Well, having no idea what the agenda was for this workshop, I'm really not prepared, but Commissioner Howell, I would like to speak to the one comment you had about us moving backward. And the only the only way I can contextualize that is wrapping where we are now with where we were historically. The level of transparency that we have now doesn't even compare to where it was when I first got here. And I think we've moved forward tremendously in that regard. And I think not to demonize or villainize anyone in the past by any means ever. Everybody's doing the best job they can in that moment, no problem. I get that. But the feel and the air with staff, in the last year or so, perhaps not today, but has been much improved over the years, the last year and a half or so. And in the heart of transparency, I think we want to encourage that always. I think we all want that always. I think it would behoove us to recall that the bill that seemed to start this whole trickle effect, the bill in question that needed to be paid, didn't have to be brought to us. That was an approved expense. It was an approved line item, January of 2023. The only two sitting up here right now that approved that are Commissioner Grunder and I. But Mr. Marshall brought it to us in an effort to be transparent, and we're getting emails saying he should be fired. Why would he want to be transparent if that's the kind of feedback he gets? We had to pay the bill. We've heard some indication of why and how it was missed, but I guess that wasn't enough. So I think that in a lot of ways we've moved forward substantially. And I think there's always going to be differences of opinion up here, and so long as we do maintain professionalism, I think the differing views is good for the community. I think it represents more of the community that way. I will respectfully disagree with you, Commissioner Grunder. I do think that you were very inappropriate. I do, and I appreciate that you were passionate. But there's a line between passionate and professionalism, and I think that conversation absolutely could have been had with Mr. Marshall. But I think publicly, everybody knew who you were talking to. You were talking about you were at home. I'm tired of hearing you were at home. I just don't think that was the appropriate place to, I get that you are unhappy with it. But, what's our culpability in all of that? We're the only two that are still here that actually approved that expense. I wasn't tracking it. We're not tracking it. The project manager is the one that tracks that. And I think that was a really valid point that was made at the last meeting, is that the project manager tracks those expenses. And that's true. I don't know how that translates to municipal government, in all fairness. But in the private sector, I managed millions of dollars worth of work, and it was always my responsibility. Well, in the course of that particular project, we had one project manager, and then that project manager left, and then it went to another one, and that project manager left, and then we've got a new public works director and a new city manager. I think in with that much personnel, with something that's that complex, it's a bummer. It's a big old bummer. But the fact of the matter is that the city of High Springs is broke, but we're not broke because of that $800,000 bill. We're broke because of decisions that were made 20 years ago. Our total debt burden is just over $14 million. We pay almost $1 million a year just to pay off our debt. And it's not going to be paid off for another 20 years. So we're broke for reasons independent of that one bill. We've been broke for a long time. The ARPA funding that we got in, the magic made-up money that we got in, really helped put a little Band-Aid on the finances and the, you know, how we appeared to be more solvent than we were. You know, funds being put perhaps where they shouldn't have been maybe made it appear that we were more solvent than we were. I think Mr. Marshall worked pretty hard on getting things in the right pots. You know, we didn't know, and when we approved the solid waste contract, we didn't know what was really going on there. I mean, I was a little disappointed in the fact that we didn't have accurate information. I know that you expressed concern about that.
Absolutely. Would you want anyone to be held accountable if they were still here for that?
I would want to understand what was going on. I don't have any intention of villainizing people. So sure, accountability is important.
Not villainizing anyone.
Well, that's how it translates, though. I think accountability is
Okay,
important.
one second. Commissioner Grunda. Go ahead, Commissioner Whites. Finish.
Okay. Yeah, accountability by all means. And I think in the kind of forensic evaluation of what had happened there, we realized what was happening. There were enterprise funds that were being used in ways that they shouldn't have been. We shouldn't be doing that. We learned that because Mr. Marshall told us that. We didn't know. So in terms of, you know, the right pots being in the right places, we've made a lot of progress in that regard. And I think that's really, really important as well. I think that I don't know the root of the mistake. I don't know if it's a simple one. It's more likely a rather complex one. We heard one explanation from Mr. Marshall at the last meeting that you know, there was Springbrook was at issue. And I saw the Alachua County Today article where it cited past administration, past people. They didn't tell us who they were talking to. And maybe those people had no actual firsthand knowledge of Springbrook. We don't even know. But those stories get put out there just to kind of help muddy it, I think. And that doesn't help anybody either. For sure. So I would suggest that, in my opinion, if there are concerns with personnel, that should go to Mr. Marshall.
Yeah.
I don't think Mr. Marshall would say that him and I have not had talks about those concerns
Okay.
on numerous occasions.
So then how do we translate that in a productive manner to the public forum?
So I'll speak on this situation. At that particular meeting, I think me and Danielle talked earlier today. How it was expressed, I actually made the direct comment. That person responded directly. Commissioner Grunder said it in general as a staff issue. And so they were taken offense by it because it was how it was expressed. But I actually was the direct comment. She responded. That situation was over. Commissioner Grunder spoke further, and then that situation was different. And as far as the total bill, I don't think as far as that particular department, those are the only issues that were going on.
Do you have anything else you want to share about that? I mean, I don't.
No, because tonight we're
That's
not,
not really
actually directing.
Okay. Okay.
But I think that we just need to be careful about using the words aggressive when someone is being direct, because I have been called aggressive before, and I was just being direct about an issue. So I don't think the word aggressive should be so freely thrown in this meeting, in these meetings, just because someone's saying something that you don't necessarily like, because sometimes they need to hear what you don't like to hear.
I completely agree.
Can I bring up one other thing? Totally off topic, because again, I didn't know what we were going to be talking about today. But the joint venture with the county and the city. There seems to be an issue with the Alachua Children's Trust, and I wanted you to help elucidate me in terms of where their role is in that. Because when I first spoke to the two county commissioners I spoke to about that, they had never spoken about the Alachua Children's Trust. So can you explain to me what your desire was or is for how they would partner in that whole thing? Because I don't know that we're going to be able to make it work. I don't know. But can you explain to me what it is that they wanted to do?
Well, I necessarily, when that issue came up, all I was referring to was the fact that the Children's Trust had already had an ideal of making a community resource center here in town. They were working with an individual here in town. Me and Mr. Marshall met with the Children's Trust. The amount of room they needed to utilize, the city doesn't have it. Well, we have it, but we will have to kick everybody out. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, in the best interest of, we already have a lease there. You know, we already have a lease on 2 of the rooms and all of that. We could not use the space that they needed in order to get the job done. So if you want to take on the project and finish it with the county commissioners, I'd be more than willing to let you hand it off
Okay.
to that. But we met with the Children's Trust, and what they needed, they can't do.
What was their goals? What were their objectives? I mean, you said that they wanted like a resource center. Is it I would assume it'd be geared at children.
Yeah, so we were actually going to go take a look at it, but you know, there was no need for us to go take a look at the way that they have it because we don't have a building for it.
So then, and this is just a general conversation, obviously, so then would there be really the only potential, and we're not making a decision on this at all by any means, but the only potential space we might even have that would work would be the Boy Scout hut, and that might not even work at all. We may decide we want to sell that. We might need to sell that, and that, you know, if that's the case, then I think the moving forward conversation with regard to this is probably moot anyway, you know. But my understanding from them was they wanted to have a place out here where they could periodically put staff members to be able to meet with folks in High Springs, like Veterans Affairs, have somebody out there once a week. I know that Danielle volunteers for Ask a Lawyer. Sometimes you can go ask a lawyer for advice for free, Social Security benefits, that kind of stuff. Just providing some kind of place for a resource for those kinds of services out here in the western part of the county, so people didn't have to drive to Gainesville. A food bank could play into that. Don't really know, but I didn't really didn't know where we wanted to go if we wanted to, you know, because we don't have any money to spend to help them, obviously. They would, I think, potentially pay rent, but would it be enough to even make sense to keep the Scout Hut? Maybe, maybe not. So then what I'm hearing you say, Mr. Mayor, is that you would be okay if I reached out to do you want to wait until the joint meeting? I mean, I don't think there's any rush.
I mean, I know you're very passionate about.
I'm trying not to overstep, and I'm trying not to be.
So, like I said, I'm more than willing to hand it off
Okay.
to you. Because, like I said, we talked to the Children's Trust.
Okay.
There was nothing that we could offer them, so I'm more than willing to let you.
Okay.
take over.
So are you guys okay? I'm sorry. Commissioners, are you all right if I reach out to the chair of the county commission just to get some understanding of what their vision is, so that at least we could have more information to make a decision?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And the only other question I had is the mayor's youth council. Is it gonna start going again? Do we know?
I asked about that, so I'm waiting on the Mayor Youth Council.
You emailed them?
I believe they sent over email. Did you ever talk to them?
Okay.
We had a hard time last time when it went kind of cold. The kids were very busy and whatnot and could not make a quorum.
We will reach out next week. I'll get with the mayor, see what dates are available. Every time we do it, we set it out for 3 weeks. By the time it gets communicated, those dates pass. So I will reach out to chairwoman of the Mayor Youth Council and see if she can get some dates from her members, and I'll get.
Is she allowed to do that, though? Is that in sunshine law? Because she's not really allowed to communicate directly with them, is she?
So long as it's not 2 members of the same board, it's not a violation of the sunshine law.
I will ask Jamie Echeverry to to reach out to each member, maybe do a Survey Monkey, about 3 dates, what would work, and we'll make sure they work with the mayor as well. We'll try to get that Mayor's Youth Council up and going.
One of the things that I found was a little more effective was communicating myself directly with the parents, because sometimes the children are not, they don't read email anymore. They text, they this, they that, you know, it's so, I don't know if Jamie, if we have that information or not, if we have parent emails.
They're usually included in the email as well.
Is that right? Okay. Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Any other commissioner comments?
I know it's not on here, but do we want to hear from the citizens?
Yeah, I'd like to respond. Commissioner Gruner, thank you for saying that some people buy into it too hard and take a lot of this stuff serious. I do. That's just me. I know the property owner of that particular situation. I just wanted to see what was going on with his point of view and helping with the budget, trying to see what all departments need. I've given permission from Jeremy to be able to talk to them. When I was elected in this seat, I wasn't just going to be a piece of dust bunny up here. I get my hands dirty. I get in the mud. And that's just me. And you're right, maybe am I breaking charter? I don't know. But I will back off on a lot of things. But I'm involved I want to be involved in what's going on here. This is my home. I was raised here. I learned to drive in these streets. Sometimes I probably shouldn't have been driving when I was doing it. But this is home. I take things to heart. I've had sleepless nights like somebody else has mentioned. Many of us probably have. And maybe I do take things and get involved too much with it. I figure that's what I'm supposed to do by being here. I try to help staff. I try to help the city manager. Do whatever I can because I can. I have the time to do it. And maybe I do need to sit back and look and say, maybe I'm putting myself out there too far. I don't want to be that way, but maybe I do. So I just want to answer your comment concerning that.
I'll say my comment actually wasn't about you,
Well, no.
but I understand
you
why
were
you
getting
would
about-
think that.
You were going talking about how we get concerned and get involved in things. So if it wasn't at me, that's fine. I'm just saying where I'm at right now. This is where I'm at.
That's me. Go ahead.
No, I said what I said. I mean, I agree with. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, I don't think it's any surprise. I think that there's been a lot of overstepping, and I think it's pretty common. And there's certain people that in the community who really like that, and there's certain people in the community who don't.
And you know, if I was too upset with you, I wouldn't have spoke to you yesterday.
I know. No. Believe me, and
I went
that's
right
why
by
I
you.
say
I'm
none of
not.
this is
That's not
personal.
me. That's not me, brother.
No, well, I don't take any of this personal. You know, this is not what we're doing up here. I believe this, and I've said this numerous times, and I truly believe this. Nobody's up here because this is cool and fun.
No, sir.
I'm gonna tell you that. Whoever believes this is just cool and fun to sit up here, this sucks. I'm telling you the truth. But like I've said, I decided to run, and when I decided to run, it's because I absolutely love this place. It's the only place I've ever lived. Mm-hmm. This town means everything to me, and I didn't like where it was, and I wanted things to change, and I was not gonna sit out there and talk to everybody and complain without getting involved. And I think we got 5 people up here who feel the exact same way. So, you know, it's hard to navigate. There's a lot of rules that we have to play by that everybody up in Tallahassee does not have to play by. They get to do a heck of a lot more stuff and a heck of a lot more communicating that we do not get. And I think if we had that opportunity, I think most of these things would be hashed out with a 10-minute phone call. But, you know, because, yeah, I mean, it's just hard. And none of this is personal. It's all business. That's why, you know, I understand the not trying to villainize anybody, but when something's unacceptable, it needs to be said. It can't just be the idly passed and whatnot. We've had the conversations. I mean, you can go back 3-4 meetings and watch how, quite frankly, how unprofessional things were and how much explaining was done that was completely unprofessional and not needed. And unfortunately, that shouldn't be here, shouldn't be in this. This is not that kind of environment or atmosphere for it. So if it needs to get addressed because it's not being addressed, then I don't have a problem saying it in the fourth meeting.
Mr. Mayor, may I respond? Clearly, the overstepping and getting the weeds is directed at me. Nobody's questioning that. Ms. Jamison knows, she's nodding. Mr. Marshall, I'd just like to ask for the record, and I
shouldn't
want
call
you to
people out,
be,
citizens like
I
that.
want you
That's
to be,
unprofessional.
I'm sorry. I'd like to ask you, Mr. Marshall, if I could you give some feedback publicly? Do you feel that I overstep operationally for you? Please be honest.
I think all of you overstep a little bit. Everybody in here, except for Wayne. I think Wayne is the only one that hasn't borderline broken charter in some way or another. And I've had conversations with just about every one of you. And this is how I act. If it's day-to-day operations and it's city manager business, and you're telling me, trying to direct me on something with an employee, it's just noise. I don't, because it's not your purview. It's my decision what to do with my staff. So if any commissioner oversteps, and I will get to your question, oversteps, I try to tell you, no, stop, that's, again, but if it's policy or passing the budget, I leave that to you, whatever you guys want to do. Do I think you overstep? No, I don't. And when you get close to it, I tell you, back off. I've done that to you, Commissioner Weiss. I've done that to you more than I have any other commissioner here. Reason being is, one, you're probably my most engaged commissioner. You read that agenda and the details, and you have a lot of questions, and a lot of this comes through. And no, I don't think you overstep, but sometimes you get too far in the weeds, and I have told you that. Back off, I've got that, and you've always have.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and
Does
I mean, I
does
guess.
anybody want more detail on that? Because
But
that's a
I
broad
actually would
statement.
like to respond to that if I could. Sure. I actually feel like sometimes you overstep your boundaries as well as the city manager. Sometimes you will come up and you would say, well, I don't think you're going to have commissioner backing on that issue. And I actually feel like that's inappropriate to do as a city manager.
I'll stop doing that, but I've said that to every one of you. Every one of you have had an idea.
Yeah, but it's inappropriate because it shouldn't be. Even if I feel that way, you shouldn't be telling me that
Won't happen
because
again.
that's how I should be voting. Whether I feel like I got backing or not, that's how I should be voting because that's what I believe. So you shouldn't be trying to sway my vote just because you don't like the way that I want to vote.
Won't happen again.
So do you have any other specific feedback? I mean, I'm a detailed dude. I'm going to keep reading and researching, but in terms of interaction with you, I try to be supportive
You do?
of you. I'm still pretty direct with you. We don't agree, plenty, and I'm fine with that, but, you know, I don't know if there's recent weeds, Commissioner Grunder, that give you pause. I'm absolutely open to hearing it. But I always have questions. You guys know me. But,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead,
No, no.
please.
No, I was just gonna dive into the unprofessional stuff, like calling out a citizen in the audience,
right, you're right, you're
or
right.
bringing up receipts from Facebook, like, and by receipts I mean bringing up messages from Facebook that you didn't like, and in that one, and there's been a bunch of stuff like that where it's like it's unnecessary, and like you talked about people making comments on the videos, like. I don't know if maybe it's getting to you with the stuff, because I think it gets to all of us seeing stuff online where people are trashing us nonstop. But, you know, when we talk about wanting to be held to a higher standard or held accountable or be professional and whatnot, those type of behaviors really kind of limit your ability to come back and say somebody else was because they were stern. You know, I mean, some of the stuff I see, I'm just like, wow. I mean, we're really... And half the accounts you bring up, I think, are fake Facebook accounts.
I don't know.
Some of them.
Could be, could be.
I don't know. There's a bunch out there, believe me. Unfortunately, when you run for this, you realize that people have multiple accounts.
Well, they're faking the matter of that the name's not real, but
Right.
it's something
No,
I,
no. The comments are real. It's just not anybody who actually
Yeah.
has been alive.
I hear what you're saying. I don't want to dismiss you by any means. And I remember reading one from one particular individual where there was just blatantly false things said. And I wanted to set the record straight. Most of what I see out there, I don't respond to it. I try very hard not to get pulled into that. But so you're bothered by me bringing back stuff that's commented on meetings?
Well, I think there's a lot of things I'm bothered by, but yes, I think that is unprofessional. Bothered by it? No, I mean, I think it's petty. I think it's unnecessary. I think people have a right to speak online.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
really think that when you sign up for this, and maybe it's because I've been a cop for so long and we're just punching back nonstop, and none of this stuff bothers me. Like, most of the people who talk about us don't really know us.
That's true.
You know, it would hurt my feelings if, like, my preschool teacher got on there and said I was a piece of crap. That would hurt my feelings. I'm glad she doesn't. Thank you, Ms. Petaway. But, you know, and I say that in joking. But seriously, like, the people who in this town, there's like a small minority of people that are vocal and nasty. That's it. And I don't think you should be bothered by that. There's always going to be people who agree with you and don't.
100%. 100%. And you got to have a pretty thick skin being up here, and I think I've developed that over the years anyway. But I'm pretty sure I'm the only one up here who's been named in a lawsuit. So people do get pretty into you, you know? So,
Well, I've been named in a lawsuit or two. Not dealing with the city, I don't think.
oh, I'm not the only one. Oh, sorry, I'm not the only one. So, I mean, people will go to extremes, and that's unfortunate, but.
I agree.
So then how do we move forward now? How do we do better?
I think for me, we bring facts. We give our opinions after we talk to our citizens, and we don't come in here with our personal agendas. That's what this workshop was about, is laying it out on the table, being done with it, so that we can at 6:30, we come back and we can do our jobs that we were voted in for. If we can, again, remove that personal stuff during those meetings, I really think that maybe we can move forward. We can disagree. Of course we're going to disagree. There's some people that want little growth. There's some that want none. There's anything. The alcohol ordinance, you know, we're not going to see eye to eye on everything, but if we can leave the personal vendettas out of this room during those times, I think that we can actually move forward. I really do. Yeah.
I believe that we do pretty well at that. I mean, I know that we disagree, which is fine, but I think the functionality of this particular group has been pretty good. Overall, I would have to say that I think we've done a pretty decent job.
yeah, I wouldn't say that we do bad in that area at all. I just think at times, me personally, I think when I get up here, if I sit and have a meeting and I ask questions and I get up here and I hear more, that's an issue for me. Like, that's a major issue for me. Because do not have me in a meeting and I'm not prepared. Like, I like to be on top of the A game every meeting. I like to know everything. So then that way I'm not looking crazy. And then when I respond to it because that's not what I heard, then it becomes an issue. And then, you know, and I'm going to bring up another issue since that happened today about the LDC rewrite. They were saying we were not having staff side on the LDC rewrite, and I brought up the video evidence that the reason why I suggested the company that we went with was because originally we were going to go with the worst company that was there. They had a 1.3 star rating on Google, and we were getting ready to sign a deal for them. And if I did not say that, we would have signed it. And so to hear that we don't have the best interest of the staff, and I know the reason why I did it, that was a problem for me today.
I don't understand what you're saying. Can you explain?
I had a meeting with Mr. Marshall, and he said that we were not having the staff best interest at heart with a lot of the stuff we were voting for.
With the LDC rewrite, particularly you're talking about now?
Well, that was one of the major issues. I left the office, but that was one of the major issues, and I brought the receipts of the video to show when that was addressed and why we went the way we went.
I agree. I agreed with you in terms of not taking the lowest cost, without a doubt. I also didn't vote for the one that we got because I thought we should have gone with the one with most experience. But we've got what we've got.
Which I was okay with that. You know,
Yeah.
like we just said, we're not always going to agree.
Sure.
But I don't like to hear that we did not try to do what was best, especially when we were going with somebody that we definitely would have been disappointed in. We at least tried to go to the next best thing. And then, you know, and then that's another thing that I don't like is that there has been plenty of times where I say, I remember how this went. One thing about Mayor Miller, he gonna remember. And I'm gonna bring the receipts. I'm going to screen record and send it to you when you tell me I don't remember it. Cause I know I got a good memory of how stuff go on in here. So that was what bothered me today was that that's not what happened. That's like that has happened in so many meetings. That's not what happened. That's not what was said. And everything that I have ever said, I can back it up with a video recording because all these meetings are recorded.
So then, what are you asking for specifically? I'm
That
not
we
sure I
just
understand.
we just have to stop when someone says, you know, okay, they remember it going this way. If you don't remember, just say you don't remember, but don't call somebody a liar or that's not how it went when you don't even know yourself.
Are you saying I called you a liar?
You did.
I texted you today, told you, thank you for sending that.
You
I was
you
wrong.
said thank you. You were wrong, but I'm talking about in the office. The reason why I left
Yeah,
your office so early because of the fact that you were telling me that that's not the way that it went.
And I was pulling up minutes, and I admitted I was wrong to you. I don't.
You
see-
did, but this need to be addressed because if I had not seen you that video recording, you wasn't gonna go back and look at it because you really didn't care. So you wasn't gonna go back and look at it and then tell me that I was right because we done did this before.
Okay.
Same way as the farm market. There was I talked about the farm market for what, almost a year? When we found out the farm market was making money, nobody said, oh, you know, we hurried up past that issue. We didn't say Mayor Miller was right all this time. We just hurried up past it and we went on to the next issue because you didn't want to say, yeah, he's right. So it would have never been checked. It would have just been, it is what it is, and we're going to go past it because it's not important. Now, if I'm wrong, you can tell me I'm wrong, but that's how I feel. Every time I address an issue, it ain't never brought back up and told in public, okay, this is how it really went. We just move past it because it's not important. I'm asking you, you don't think that that's what happens?
I don't think that's what happens, but no.
Okay. Well, when it happens again, I'll make sure I address it. All right, we're going to allow the citizens to talk. You're going to have 3 minutes apiece because we are short on time.
Rick Testa, live here in High Springs. I want to make one point. To me, you all are new commissioners. I've said this 10 times since you all got up there. We have a new city manager and new commissioners. I think you all have been working great together. But what I want to compare to and tell you that might help each and every one of you go home and think about this. You all were elected. I'm on the planning board. We're appointed. We don't have people calling us 10 times a day that tell us there are our constituents. You all do. And I know for a fact that some of you up there are listening to your constituents, the people that voted for you. And what you forget is that 300 people out of 7,000 might have voted for you. That is not the majority. That is not the city of High Springs. If you're listening to one or two people that are unhappy or voted for you or paid for your campaign, not only that, it's conflict of interest. It's part of the corrupt process that commissioners sometimes fall into. Once you start with conflict of interest, you move to the quid pro quo and the graft and the other things I've mentioned to you all before. The reason I've mentioned to you before, because I've been here 30 years paying attention to it, and I've seen it happen. So that point right there, if you all just go home and say to yourself, look what the planning board does. We get along brilliantly because we don't have people calling us and pecking at us and all the grievances and all the grief you guys put up with. You shouldn't be listening to that stuff. None of you should. You are not beholden to your constituents. Whoever voted for you, hang up on them if they give you a hard time or tell you what to do. You're here for everybody, 7,000 people. You are not here for the 2 people that go in and scream at the city manager or scream at the commissioners or hold signs out on the street for you and give you $200 for your campaign. I have so much trouble getting up here talking about these things. I have anger management problems. We all have our problems. I get so angry with this type of stuff. It's so simple to me. If you're going to run for an office, you get elected, you are a public official. You swear to the Constitution of the United States and all that stuff. You all heard this with the Community Development District. You cannot vote for that ordinance based on the Constitution of the United States, and some of you did. Some of you did that. You have to realize the responsibility that you carry when you get elected to an official position like this. And quit pandering to your campaign people. Thank you.
Good evening, Sue Weller. I just want to say that this $1 million issue is something that still has to be looked into. The citizens do not understand what happened, how this occurred. There is nothing, we've asked for a written report or suggested a written report. That has not been done, and I was told it's not going to be done. There are things like in the last meeting, when it was explained that this one-line purchase order had several things with it, and it was closed out because of that. I asked for that information. What I got was, and I put it out on Facebook, what I got were 7 different POs with 7 different purchase order numbers that was supposedly in response to my question for that one item, that one purchase order. Now, how can you have one purchase order with 7 different items with 7 different purchase order numbers? That was not explained. That needs to be looked into, and it needs to be further explained. Thank you.
All right, any other citizen comments?
Good evening, good evening. Byron Williams, citizen here in High Springs. Then when I sit up there, one of the first things I learned was the people that, you touched on it, Rick, the people that voted for High Springs are bigger than that. When I sit there, I try to represent every citizen in the city of High Springs. And what I try to do with every commissioner, yes, we can agree to disagree, but we can leave here and go have a cup of coffee. So you have to leave your personal feelings out there, your political affiliation out there, and you definitely have to leave that Facebook stuff out there. because it's poison. So it's about the citizens of High Springs. And guess who represent the citizens of High Springs? All the citizens of High Springs. The 5 of you guys. You all represent us. And when you make decisions, it shouldn't be about your personal beliefs or maybe what your friends believe. It's what's best for the citizens of High Springs, Florida. That's why they voted y'all in. That's why they voted y'all in. This is the first time I ever, the 20 years I was sitting up here, what I seen tonight, I never seen this before. I have never seen this before. Even during the times that we had some rough water, which I call growing pain, but we worked through it. And that's what you guys have to do today. You'll have to sit here, let your city manager be the city manager, you be commissioners, listen to your staff, and do what's, I'm gonna say this again, do what's best for the citizens of High Springs, because it is not about you. It's about the people. I beg y'all to do that. I beg y'all to do that. Leave it outside. Personal feelings, leave it outside. And be able to communicate with one another. It's so important. Because the only time y'all can communicate when y'all sitting on this dais. Sunshine law says you can't do it outside this building. So this should be the time that y'all take it so seriously that y'all listen at one another and do not point fingers or take stuff personal. The days I was sitting up there, I used to bring a duck with me, a little baby duck, a little toy duck, to remind me when somebody say something to me that I didn't agree with, let it roll off my back. So please, do what's best for the citizens of High Springs. Thank you.
All right, any response from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I have one question. Angela, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but the information that Mrs. Weller was talking about that she received and was on 7 lines, purchase orders, did that information come out of Springbrook?
Purchase orders themselves come out of Springbrook?
No, whatever it was that was put out there publicly, there was a table of line items.
I believe it was part of a change order
Okay.
that we received.
Okay.
But, yeah, so there were, the public records requests, she received the purchase orders that were the owner direct purchase,
Right.
and the change order that showed what the owner direct purchases were. Does that answer your question?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll talk to Mr. Marshall about that more than I get. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, any other commissioner comments? All right, I entertain a motion to adjourn. We're going to call this commission meeting to order on January 22nd, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. We're going to have a roll call by Angela.
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bloodsworth,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Grunder, Commissioner Howell,
Here.
and Commissioner White.
Here.
All right. We'll have the invocation and pledge by Pastor Byron Williams.
Let us pray. Most gracious God, first of all, we just give you praise and thanks for this city, God. And God, we thank you for the commissioners, God, the staff, God. And God, we just pray, God, that you would just lead them and guide them, Lord. Just bless them with the wisdom and knowledge and understanding, God, that they can do what's best for the city of High Springs, God. And God, I pray, God, that you give the people the patience and we can work together to do the good for the city of High Springs as a whole. So again, we say thank you for that grace and that mercy that you have showed upon this city all these years, God. So again, we say thank you for being the God that you are. In your sweet holy name we pray. Amen.
All right. So we will have the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right. Approval of the consent agenda minutes from January 8th, 2026 commission meeting.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right. Special presentation number 1, presentation on Rails to Trails by Erica Hernandez of Trust for Public Land.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I will lower that quite a bit. I appreciate you so much for inviting us to speak about this opportunity here in High Springs, and I know that it is a project that has been on the mind of this community for a really long time, and so I hope that I can kind of share how we're going to move forward this time and make this a really successful win for all of us. My name is Erica Hernandez. I work for Trust for Public Land, but I live in Alachua County, so I'm also a resident, and so this project is very near and dear to my heart. And I do land protection for the Trust for Public Land, which means that I do acquisition work, essentially. Nope. Yes. Okay, so to tell you a little bit about who Trust for Public Land is, we are a national nonprofit, and we have been around since 1972. And our kind of main mission is to connect everyone to the outdoors. So we believe that access to nature is essential to happiness, health, and well-being. So while we are a land trust that is focused on acquiring land and protecting land, we're really looking at how we can now take that public land and connect people to it. Okay, so how do we do that? So we buy land for conservation, but that can look like a lot of different things. That can be a very local community park. It could be a schoolyard. It could be a trail, or it could be a more traditional outdoor iconic space like a national park or a state park or a wildlife refuge. And so since our founding in 1972, we have protected over 4 million acres of public land. And we've had over 5,000, close to 6,000 projects, and have been able to work with public and private partnerships generating over $111 billion to help do that mission. So the way that we work is we buy and sell land in our own name. We act as principal, and we assume the risk of that ownership as well as all the costs. So we buy it, we hold it, and then we convey to a public partner. We don't own and manage our own properties. So as a private purchaser, we can move very quickly in the marketplace. And our goal in utilizing our own funds means that we are going to leverage every opportunity that we can in grants and public funding and in private foundations to make sure that we are able to convey something at market value or sometimes below market value to the public partner. Sometimes the public partner is unable to meet that market value, that appraised value, and so we're able to address that gap. And we're really good at addressing complex issues, title irregularities, property contaminations, litigation. We kind of tend towards those more complex projects. And so since 1972, we have conserved over 3,000 miles of trails, and we are leaders in rail corridor acquisition. We've closed on more than 40 projects nationally. So here in Florida, we've completed over 429 projects, closed over $1 billion in funding for public access to land and water, and protected over 185,000 acres. The Florida Office for Trust for Public Land was the second one opened nationally, and it's been here since 1974 in Tallahassee. In Alachua County, we have protected over 3,000 acres of land and assisted with 3 out of the 4 successful Wild Spaces Public Places ballot initiatives for conservation funding. So not only do we do public land acquisition and projects for getting people connected to the out of doors, but we also have a very active part of our organization that is working on ballot initiatives, working on campaigns, working on trying to understand what the general population is interested in. Can these things really be brought to a ballot and be successful to help leverage with these state and federal dollars? And in Alachua County, of that 3,000 acres that we've protected, we have worked on the 6th Avenue Rail Corridor in Gainesville that connects to the Gainesville-Hawthorne Trail. We've also made additions to city, county, state, and local parks like Bulwer Springs, Paynes Prairie, Loblolly Woods, Blues Creek, San Velasco Preserve, and Loch Lusa Slough. Okay, so let's get down to this project. So here in the state of Florida, we have the Office of Greenways and Trails. That is part of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and they provide the leadership to coordinate and establish, expand, and promote Florida Greenways and Trails in this vast statewide network for non-motorized recreational use. And that includes both the National Scenic Trail, trails like a Rails to Trail project. It could also be a paddling trail. And then the Office of Greenways and Trails is also responsible for developing the statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, and that becomes the basis of projects being eligible in a state for federal funding related to certain types of funding for outdoor recreational use and land protection use. So with Office and Greenways and Trail, the corridor from High Springs to Newberry is one of the priority trail segments in the Office of Greenways and Trails system. And it's addressing a gap for the Nature Coast Trail, which basically connects Cross City, Trenton, Fanning Springs, and some of the state parks heading into the Panhandle. So in the most recent statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, they conducted surveys to determine what Floridians wanted in terms of outdoor recreation opportunities, and 85% of the participants said that their number one outdoor recreation activity would be utilizing trails. And that beats out beaches and boating. They come in at 73%. And then surveys also went on to reveal that the number one activity that would increase satisfaction with outdoor opportunities would be more greenways and trails, and also followed by wildlife viewing opportunities. Oh, that's really hard for y'all to see. I apologize. So Alachua County right now is working on their bicycle pedestrian master plan, and they've developed an existing conditions report that was published last year. And I just basically wanted to show some images from that report to show that this specific rail corridor and trail opportunity is both on the state priority plan and also on the counties, which is a great thing. The more lists that we can get projects on, the more opportunities they are for fundraising and leveraging resources. And so this bicycle and pedestrian master plan that's going to be finalized early this year is meant to update and strengthen the county's bicycle, micromobility, and pedestrian policies, practices, and tools, identify gaps in the network shared by bikes and sidewalks, and then also improve infrastructure to support these areas, and then come up with implementation strategies and where to invest and create policy changes. And essentially what it does is it makes it eligible for, state and federal programs like Safe Streets and some of the Sun Trail opportunities. You have to have these types of plans in place. And so with this map, does that work? Where you see the Newberry High Springs Trail is basically, you could see that the corridor is there, identified as a priority and a proposed facility. And all the blue in the kind of footprint of Gainesville and High Springs and Alachua is just to show that a lot of the existing resources are in these city environments, in the more urban areas, and less so in the more rural parts of the county. This map from that same report is showing the areas where mobility is less accessible, where there's a lot of barriers to mobility, to bicycling and pedestrians. And again, everywhere that you see a purple line is in the more rural areas, so including that corridor between High Springs and Newberry, versus the more interior city areas having lots of opportunities for multi-use paths and getting around. And then the last map that you cannot see is this is also showing some of those priority areas and future plans for pedestrian and bicyclists. And what I wanted to point out is between Newberry and Gainesville along 26, it shows another corridor and proposed area for a trail that would connect Newberry to the city of Gainesville. And I would say that, both at the state level and at the county level, what I wanted to say is that all of these trails are about connectivity and connecting these networks, so they're not just kind of a floating in space out there, but they're actually not just for recreation, but actually also for commuting and increased access. Okay, so here is our project. So as I'm sure many of you know, this corridor starts at the Santa Fe River on the Alachua County side, and then goes east through High Springs and would end at Northwest 222nd Street. So south of there, as we head towards Newberry, we're going to travel to Northwest 46th Avenue, which is basically the NC Ranch property. This is about 13 miles, just a little shy of 13 miles one way. And the reason why the project stops at 46 is because that section of rail, it's about 3 miles from there to downtown Newberry, is currently under a lease with a short line railroad, so it's not available for acquisition, but we'd really like to think of that as a phase 2 and in our active conversations with CSX about next steps, next stages, and how that can become a project in the future. What I also wanted to point out in these maps, and you can especially see it on the right-hand map with all that gray kind of footprint around the orange line, those are city limits. And most of this corridor is in city limits of High Springs, actually. 60% of the corridor is within the city limit of High Springs. Now, while most of the development is really closer to the city center, both for Newberry and High Springs, there is that capacity for these areas along the corridor to eventually become residential areas that will benefit from this corridor being here. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, as most of this corridor was within your own city limits and will be utilized by people coming to High Springs, I think that it also presents a real opportunity to share the story of this part of the county and of this part of Florida, where you have all of these different coexisting uses and history around forestry and agriculture, the railroad, the way that the communities were established, and how that ties to the Santa Fe River and the spring sheds, and kind of one of those reasons why we get so many tourists coming through this area to visit the springs and the state parks. So there are many, many studies that show that rail corridors and multi-use trails are really beneficial economically to the communities that they are in. This type of corridor would be a destination. I think people would go out of their way to come here and ride on this corridor. And it also gives visitors that are maybe passing through to head to a state park a reason to linger, a reason to visit a local business, to visit some of the amenities. The corridor passes right through the community redevelopment area. And as I said, there are many studies that show that rail trails and rail corridors and trails in general increase property values around them. It's a wide range. It depends on the type of trail and the adjacent properties, but there are studies that show between 4 to 20% increased value in homeowner properties. I also wanted to point out that the Alachua County Safe Streets and Roads for All Action Plan identifies State Road 45, which connects High Springs and Newberry, as a high injury network segment. So the rail trail and the conversion to a corridor for pedestrians and cyclists creates a safe place for people to enjoy recreation, but it can also be a viable transportation corridor. I also wanted to mention that the Gainesville-Hawthorne Trail, which is 16 miles, just a little bit bigger, that connects those two communities, that's managed by the Florida Park Service, and they have statistics on the use. And in their fiscal year 24-25, they documented over 51,000 users, and the percent of people using it that were non-local was 74%. Visitor expenditures based on this analysis to the local area were $6 million and 85 jobs supported. So as part of that existing condition report by the county, they conducted more surveys around public uses and recreation for pedestrians and bicyclists. And 70% of the surveyed respondents specific to Alachua County were comfortable biking along trails and shared youth paths, but not adjacent to roads. And then more than 50% of the participants of the survey said that they'd like to walk or bike to schools, parks, social activities, and shopping destinations. And 50% said that they would also be willing to walk or bike to work. But only 35% of cyclists and close to 25% said that they would bike or walk to work or school or shopping if it was safe and comfortable, even if it was 20 minutes away. So I think that like when you create that path and folks realize that it is secure, even if they're not right up on it, they would be interested in accessing it and using it as their corridor to the community. And on the right-hand side, on my right, we also have a map of the historic city limits and the community redevelopment area, the downtown development area, and the traditional city, where that yellow line, the corridor part that goes east-west, goes right through the center of all of those designated boundaries. So Trust for Public Land has tools to help analyze how to connect people to public land. And we utilize parcel data, census data, transportation network data. And what I wanted to show you here is basically within a half mile of the corridor, there is over 2,000 people that could walk to the corridor in this rural area and in the community. And then if we look at a 10-minute cycle, a 10-minute bike ride outside of the corridor, you have over 8,000 people in the community that could use this corridor as just 10 minutes away from them via bike. So it creates a really viable path for actual residents, not just visitors and tourists, to get downtown to High Springs businesses and the amenities that are here. All right, recreation and health benefits. So of course, increasing public access to the outdoors is great for public health and wellness. There are more opportunities for exercise. In 2011, the American Heart Association found that for every dollar invested in building trails, there is a direct correlation to $3 of savings and health costs for communities. And you're gonna have wildlife viewing and scenic vistas. The trail is gorgeous. I don't know if anybody's been out there lately, but because those tracks were removed years ago, and the trees are moving in, the vegetation are moving in. It is full of wildlife. It is so beautiful already. And so this is just going to be able to create a way for safe, managed access to the corridor. And people are already using it. When I've gone out there to kind of check things out and take some photos and that sort of thing, there are car tracks, there are bicycle tracks, there are people's footprints, there are wildlife tracks. And this is just bare soil. And we know from previous studies when we attempted this project several years ago that there's a lot of contamination out there, and that's to be expected with a rail corridor that's been used for over 200 years as an industrial use. And so being able to address this kind of bare earth region that people are utilizing and actually remediate it, protect people from any potential contamination, and let it be a real resource to the community is definitely the way to go in terms of comparing it to how we're utilizing it now. And then just kind of lastly there, I really hope that in this effort, when we get to an implementation strategy and what is the corridor as a trail actually going to look to this town, that there's a real effort to put your identity on it, you know, have that sense of cohesion that this is yours. You don't have to own it, you don't have to manage it, but it's still yours. And it's something that you can really have some social cohesion around and can be a real kind of a gathering space, essentially. Okay, so the part that everybody wants to know about is kind of what is the current status? How are we going to do this? So Trust for Public Land and CSX, we negotiated a contract. It took a while, but we got there. And it is currently being executed. They're a national office as well. It takes a really long time for them to get all their signatures. So any day now we will have an executed contract. But everybody knows that we are full speed ahead. We've already ordered our title work. We are working towards doing our due diligence, essentially for the inspection period that you would have basically with any real estate transaction. So in the interim, I've been meeting with advisory boards and committees, local businesses, making sure that we have the stakeholders in the engagement that are, you know, for this project, support this project. We know a lot about this corridor already because of the previous attempt to purchase it with the county. And so in terms of the barriers that we faced last time, there are no kind of hidden issues. We know what they are, and we can address them full speed ahead. So we're kind of starting out with more information than we did last time. Let's see. So the project is shovel ready. It has already been rail banked. So that means that the Surface Transportation Board is already aware that there will be an interim trail manager for trail use and not for railroad use. So that's something that can take a long time. So that's already taken care of. And of course, as you know, the tracks have already been removed. And then because the project is on the Office of Greenways and Trails Florida Forever Strategic Managed Areas list, that makes it eligible for state funding. We don't have to reapply or request funding. It is eligible. I think that the most compelling projects right now to the state's Florida Forever program are going to come with a lot of buy-in and a lot of match. Right now, the most recent Florida Forever statewide budgets have not been fully funded to their extent. We're waiting to see this spring how the legislature decides to fund that program. It could go either way. Last year, we only got 18 million, which is just a drop in the bucket to what is typically awarded that program. I'd like to be optimistic that there'll be more funding this year. I think in the grand scheme of things, this project, compared to some of the more traditional open space land protection projects, is not very expensive, so that is in our benefit. And then I think bringing partners like the City of High Springs, like Alachua County, to show that we can leverage funding and public dollars with the state dollars, and then also have investment from philanthropic investors that Trust for Public Land will bring to the table, will really make it an easier project to go ahead through the state process. And so just for the sake of everybody to be on the same page, the state will be the fee simple owner. So when Trust for Public Land buys it, we will convey it to the state, and Alachua County has already agreed to be the trail manager. So the county will be responsible for the implementation and the perpetual management of the corridor and the trail. So that's not on the cities, although I'm sure that the cities can absolutely, weigh in on the designs and what that's going to look like since it's primarily in your community. My goal, if I could get my way, would be to close on this project by October of this year. The reason why I would love to move so quickly is because after October, the price potentially will increase with Consumer Price Index. I think that CSX is being very flexible with a timeline and understanding that it may take some time to pull together the funding resources, but I hope it doesn't. I hope that we can bring all the parties to the table, have all the funding together, and just get it done. It's already gone up a couple $1 million since the last time we tried this, and I think with the opportunity from the city limits around the corridor being able to become, future residential areas, that just makes the corridor expensive into the future. So let's get it done now. And so the county is looking internally at their budgets for their fiscal year 2027, which would start in October, to see where we can potentially find funding to bring to the table, to bring to the state. I do think that the county is very interested in seeing that the local communities are also able to contribute something to show that they are kind of completely on board with to bringing this project to success. And I think that they're very interested in the potential for the wild spaces funding that is allocated to the local communities from the county. So I think that's it. I kind of flew past that, so if you have any questions or specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, please. Erica, can you tell me how long has the Gainesville-Hawthorne Trail been completed?
Oh, that I don't know.
Is it a long time?
It's a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just
been
that
there a
last
while.
year of data is pretty robust, and I just wondered how much, how much that had been over the years.
I used to live on it, and it is so beloved. Like, it's just always full of people. And I was actually really impressed that 74% are non-residents.
Yeah.
That surprised
Yeah.
me because I thought it was just all of Gainesville utilizing it. But yeah, it has been there for quite a while.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge supporter of this, so
Thank you.
I appreciate every time you come and get us up to date on it, and I'm glad to see it's moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
City Attorney, would you mind reading the letter from the Heart of High Springs in the record?
So this is a letter dated January 4th, 2026 from the Heart of High Springs Incorporated, addressed to the City of High Springs Commission regarding endorsement of the High Springs to Newberry Rail Corridor land acquisition. Dear Mayor Miller, Vice Mayor Bloodsworth, and Commissioners Howell, Grunder, and White. The Heart of High Springs strongly supports the Trust for Public Lands' efforts to acquire the 13-mile rail corridor connecting the Santa Fe River, the City of High Springs' downtown, and the City of Newberry in Alachua County, Florida. Identified by the Florida Office of Greenways and Trails as a critical connector in the National Trail System's Nature Coast Trail State Trail, and this project will boost rural economies, improve public health, and create safe, scenic access for pedestrians and cyclists. Additionally, the trail offers an opportunity to showcase the story of this rural region and its ties to agriculture, forestry, water resources, and springs. Rail-to-trail projects are proven economic investments. Located between the historic communities of Newberry and High Springs, this project will encourage increased visitation to local businesses and connect communities to world-class springs like Alachua County Poe Springs Park, located just 3 miles away. In 2019, Florida State Park Springs welcomed more than 3.9 million visitors, who spent over $350 million in local communities and supported 4,885 jobs. Studies have found that properties located near trails and bike paths can also experience value increases of up to 10%, benefiting local homeowners, future developments, and the region's tax base. Beyond economics, the trail will enrich community identity, reduce isolation, and improve health by expanding access to nature. A state-approved mitigation plan will address any historic rail contamination. A Washington Post article has found that multi-use corridors also provide safer alternatives to roadside travel in rural areas. We express our full support for this project and urge state, local, and philanthropic partners to make the necessary financial investment to acquire this vital rail corridor for the benefit of residents and visitors alike. Sincerely, Sean Cowles, Vice President, Heart of High Springs.
Thank you. Did we have any other commissioner comments?
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We will definitely be in close contact as things get better and better. I have better news for you.
Yeah, and I encourage you all, if you haven't took the tour with her yet, to call her and let her get you on the tour so you can, so you can see it. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Special presentation, item number 2, update on Bridalwood by Chris Potts.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Chris Potts with LJ Engineering. Just here to give the commission an update on the Bridalwood development. There has been a delay on the power company that they're finally just getting in there, installing conduit. I'm sure some of you have seen a lot of the survey stakes up and around. That's for Duke getting their power in. They've had to pull off several times due to other emergencies, shifting crews here and there. So they're finally back in the full swing of things. So hopefully that means they'll be completing soon as well. Fiber is going in there as well. There's a fiber media company, Zito Media, that is bringing in fiber from the Newberry area up to the development. So all the residents within Bridalwood will have fiber internet as well. And then we are just about complete with the right-of-way dedication for FDOT. That's the holdup with the entrance being complete. But as you can see, it's been staked out on both sides of State Road 45. Unfortunately, the right-of-way process takes a while when it goes up to the state. All the attorneys get involved, and DOT wants to come out and look at it with surveyors and that sort of thing. So it takes quite a bit of time. But we're anticipating hopefully getting that roundabout underway probably February, March. And then houses will be hopefully coming up summertime. So that is the update. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I don't know if folks generally know about the roundabout that's going in. Can you explain where that's going to be?
Yes. So at the entrance, so State Road 45 or US 2741 is currently a 2-lane roadway. As a result of Bridalwood coming in and some work back and forth with DOT, instead of just putting in deacceleration lanes or turn lanes coming north and southbound, DOT has actually requested a roundabout be constructed at the entrance. The roundabout will handle the build out of the development, so there won't be any other improvements required for State Road 45. And so the roundabout will take up a portion of the state road, but it'll also be kind of shifted inward. Because as most people know, that's a tight corridor there. So the developer is donating land to DOT for the construction of the roundabout.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, we thank you for your presentation.
Yep. Thank you very much.
We have no unfinished business on tonight, so citizen requests and comments for issues that's not on the agenda, please state your name for the record. Limit all comments to 5 minutes, and following all the citizen comments, then the commission will respond if needed. Thank you.
Julie Tapia-Ruano, member of the High Springs Planning and Historical Board Preservation. I want to commend the staff and the leadership and the commissioners who were able to go down to Alachua over the last several weeks with a lot of information and testimony. And they were part of a massive community effort to publicize the critical nature of Mill Creek Sink and its sensitive nature and karst geology and for our water safety. Thank you for all those of you who could get into the room and who were able to speak. I hope that High Springs will continue to be this informed and this passionate and this active in our local decisions, with the decisions we make concerning density and development with the policies we create to encourage more natural resource development, such as this Rails to Trails, and beyond just putting in more breweries and beer taps and music venues. In that light, I would like to ask the staff and commission if we know where we are with our LDC review process. I have asked in the past for updates and when the process will begin, or what part we can play as members of the planning board, what recommendations we can be involved with. Have we spent our money wisely on the people in charge of this review? Where are we in the process? And how can we garner citizen input as well as we do our LDC revisions? On a second issue, I'd like to just bring up a news article I heard today, just a brief, something coming, maybe the attorneys can help us, about a bill in the House that has the potential to allow citizens of resident neighborhoods to dissolve their HOAs if they have conflict, and that there will be a court perhaps set up to hear these arguments between HOAs and the citizens for dissolution perhaps. And does it also include CDDs as well?
Rick Testa again. You're lucky guys and girls. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I'm here also for the planning board this time around. So I'm here to show you just something. Could you give each one of them their staple? If you run out, let me know. I'll give you a couple more. Thank you very much. So just there's some heavy stuff going on this evening, so I'm going to try to lighten it up for you. If you would, please just take a moment to realize that sometimes these disagreements come up and we've got weaknesses and we've got strengths, all that, but every now and then you think about what staff does, and hopefully once in a while you're looking at your planning board going, holy mackerel, we aren't voted in, so we volunteer for this, we don't get paid, and this is the stuff that happens that sometimes you don't see, because by the time it comes to you, you just vote. You'll see other ones. This was one you approved, I think the last commission meeting. But I want you to look at page 1. I numbered them with a magic marker. Did you have one? Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Great. If you look page 1, stick with me for just a moment, please, Madam Commissioner and Mr. Commissioners and Mr. Mayor. Page 1. Look at number 1, page 1. That came to the planning board. That was a builder here in High Springs, wants to build a convenience store right on 27 there. And look at number 1, the side of that building. It was a gray metal building with a lean-to roof. It was a large TED shed made out of metal. And it was going to be placed directly across the street from one of the historic, beautiful homes here in High Springs. So this is the stuff that comes in front of you all and in front of the planning board from time to time, and I wish I could let everybody in the audience see these pictures, because the planning board has no power. People come to the commission. The other night, some people from the community came to the commission asking for us to. We have no power whatsoever. All we can do is try to improve things. So if you'll look at page 1, number 1, number 2 is the front of the building. That would have been what you would see when you go into the entrance of the building, the TED shed. Number 1 is the side. That would have been the exposure right on 27. Everybody that drove by there would have seen that side of the building. Now switch over to page 2, if you will. Look at what the builder agreed to do for you. Through all the work that Christie does all day, every day, and what the developer was doing. Mr. Mayor, I've overstepped my time.
No, that's not the time.
Oh. Okay, so real quick then. So if you look at number 2, you're seeing the legality of what the zoning would allow that builder to do on page 1. Christie dealt with all this. She covers all those bases on the building codes and all the stuff the city has to deal with. The planning board gets this and goes, how could we allow this to exist on 27 across the street from a beautifully restored historic home? It's in the historic district, but page 2 is the result. The best we could do, if you look at the side view, you've got arched windows, you've got red brick. If you look at number 2 on page 2, you're looking now at the front of the building. Compare the two pictures. To me, it was a dramatic change, not because of Christie or the planning board, but because we asked questions. We worked with the builder, and that builder was willing to do this for you. And you all obviously voted to support that. So thank you for doing that. You're going to get more of it this evening, I'm sure, from more community people. But we're trying to help out, and thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Tremblay, and I've come here to remind everybody to come to our Arbor Day celebration on Saturday. We're really excited about that. We'll have several trees to give away. I've come here wearing my tree garb. I'm all green because I'm big about trees. They have an incredible importance to maintain our communities, keep them cool, break up the winds so people don't get hit so hard with winds. They create a safe space as long as you don't. They're not all. Right now, the city has a lot of old trees that do need to be taken down and replaced with younger trees. And my main concern, though, right now tonight is the fact that trees are protected in our city, but nobody really knows about the codes in the Land Development Code, how trees are protected, even on private property, given how large they are. If they're damaged and they're old, take them down. But healthy trees really need to be protected because it takes decades sometimes for them to get to the canopy stage at which they provide the most benefit. So I think it's important for our new residents coming in to know what the tree protections are for our city. They're in our code. I know the codes are being revised, but our trees are also well valued by our community members. And if we could just let people know, maybe on the back of the water bill, that there is a tree code that you have to apply for a permit to remove a tree. And also, we also need a mitigation fund. Not just the $25 for applying for a permit, but a true mitigation fund that helps, or a mitigation plan, I should say, so that when you take down a tree, you can either replace a certain amount of trees on your property to make up for the loss of the canopy, or you can pay into a fund that would give us the funds needed to place more trees in our parks. By the way, I'm on the Parks, Recreation, and Tree Board, so I pay particular attention to this. Thank you for your time. Did I leave anything out? I get nervous when I speak in front of people. All right, thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is John Millay. I'm a business owner in the Historic District with a significant financial and long-term stake in downtown High Springs. We're investing heavily in restoration, tourism, and community development, and we rely on proper functioning of the CRA to keep that momentum moving forward. Right now, we have a serious administrative bottleneck that needs attention. My understanding is the CRA director cannot complete the required CRA reports because the city's annual reports have not been filed, and she is not being given the financial numbers she needs. That creates a chain reaction. The city's filings are late, the CRA's filings are stalled, and our eligibility for grants and state funding are put at risk. These are not just routine paperwork items. The CRA reporting affects compliance, access, and funds, and the economic future of the district. So I would like to clarify from the commission, please, on 3 points. First, when will the city's annual reports be completed and filed? Second, who will be responsible for providing the CRA director with the financial data required to fulfill her duties? And third, does city staff need direction, support, or outside assistance from the commission at this point to get this done without further delay? My second item is issue of governance. At the last meeting, the commission voted to appoint Amy Bohannon as CRA director. Her job is to advance redevelopment activity in the district. However, CRA matters are still being routed through multiple administrative layers, and that has consistently slowed projects, communications, and opportunities. To fix that, I'm asking that the commission allow the CRA director to report directly to the commission on CRA matters. That aligns with the commission's vote, reduces bureaucratic bottlenecks, and accelerates redevelopment in a time when private investment is already happening. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Don Decker with the Historical Society here, and I just wanted to say we're for the Rails to Trails. It's a great opportunity to include in our history when the plant system came to High Springs in 1895 and built a facility here that it created a lot of jobs for the community at the time and was here for many years. Matter of fact, I didn't realize this till the other day. Jim Douglas Chevrolet, which started in Alachua, 100 years this year. Yeah. So, but as the tracks went into the, from Gainesville across here and went into the train yard, had that spur go off by the peanut mill over here and went down to Newberry. And another thing, I'm still looking for a photograph that somebody has with the train sitting across Main Street here before the tracks are out, of course. And we don't have a picture of it. I can't believe it. But the other thing about the museum, after renovation in the beginning of '25, we reopened Saturday, February 15th. And we were closed a couple days after Christmas, this past Christmas. We were open 45 Saturdays, I believe. Over 1,000 people came to the museum this year, or 25, I should say. So I'm just so happy about that. We had 30 people come through on Saturday again. So things are doing great, and you know we just want to support all these efforts for our historical history in the area. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lanier Smith. I'm with a resident of High Springs. I'm also with the High Springs Lions Club and also volunteer with the Chamber on that board as well. And I just want to say Happy New Year. I know everybody's dealing with some pretty important things right now. I would at some point in time like to get on the agenda to discuss one or two things. There are community service organizations in this town, particularly myself and the High Springs Lions Club, that do an awful lot for the city to help with budgetary issues and expenditures on events that we have here in town. There are some that are very important to us because they are historically parts of the life of High Springs. We have no intention of seeing them go away. I hope everybody else will share the same position. As again, like I say now is probably not a good time, but somehow or another I want to get into a meeting or on the agenda to discuss certain items that are going on. If it's just footnotes, the company that I work for is an engineering group called HNTB, one of the largest engineering groups in the world. And we are currently overseeing the Rails to Trails project between Worthington and State Road 100 to carry on down through Stark and join that segment that's going from on out to Palatka. So it's a big to do. I'm very familiar with that. In addition, just happy to be here and happy to help out wherever I can. Y'all know how to find me. So we have a lot of events coming on this year at the Lions Club. Some that some people may not know. Our next one, I believe, is Cinderella's Closet. If you haven't heard about it, we give away prom dresses, wedding dresses, suits, formals for. We've got Feel the Music, which is a full day of music, which benefits the St. Augustine School for the Deaf and Blind. You know, there's a car show coming up at the end of the year. We're going to do that again. There's some things in between. I can't remember all of them right now, but we're always busy. If there is anybody that's willing to come down and visit us or help out with any of that or has any ideas, throw them our way. We will reciprocate. Have a great night. Thank you.
David Lynch, L-I-N-C-H. I believe it was Commissioner White's mentioned in the last meeting that the Scout Hut was up for sale. So someone mentioned in the last meeting that the Scout Hut was up for sale. This is a very important event. I was upset to learn that the Scout Hut was up for sale because I was a Boy Scout in that Scout Hut growing up in High Springs. And I urge the commissioners to be oriented toward historical preservation and think about what they're selling. If they sell the Scout Hut, they're selling something that has tremendous historical significance. And Commissioner Bloodworth mentioned in one meeting that Dr. Joe Dowdy got his Eagle Scout there in 44. I don't know whether it was in that building or not. I don't know when that building was built. I was born in 42, and it's been there ever since I can remember, but whether it was there in 44, I can't say. But Dr. Dowdy was an outstanding man, an outstanding contributor to the community. And so in his honor, we should even think about, in his honor, preserving the Scout Hut because he was an outstanding scout. He graduated with the highest honors in engineering from the University of Florida. How many High Springs boys graduate with the highest honors in engineering? He went on to become a test pilot with the Air Force, and then he obtained his dental degree and served High Springs as a dentist for over 30 years. So I ask the commissioners to think again when they think about selling the Scout Hut. And I'd just like to remind the city manager and the commissioners that High Springs Brewing is using the High Springs name to promote a product that kills 7,000 people each day.
All right. Any other citizen comments? All right, I just wanted to respond to one thing. Our last CRA meeting, Amy wasn't voted in as the director. I made a suggestion to do that, but we will actually have to put that on the agenda and vote on it as a body. Is there any other responses?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, please, that was one of my questions. I know that we had discussed it, but that we had not actually decided to do that. So I wanted to speak to Mr. Lynch in terms of Dr. Dowdy. My son was a scout there too, and he eagled out of that troop under Wayne and Kathy Bloodsworth. And Ms. Billy Dowdy gifted that troop, Troop 69, a shadow box of Dr. Dowdy's memorabilia from the Boy Scouts, and he was the first Eagle Scout out of that troop. And it holds a lot of importance for us as well. And I don't want you to think that we're taking that decision lightly. We don't know, Mr. Marshall, Commission, if you can confirm, we don't know if we're going to sell it. It's just something that's a possibility, but it certainly isn't something that any of us up here would take lightly, I'm sure. And then the only other question I had in terms of the financial reporting for the CRA that Mr. Millay was talking about, I'm not sure exactly what it is he's looking for, what it is that we need. I mean, if we're not reporting stuff for the CRA, we wouldn't still have a CRA, right?
Yes and no. So the financial reporting comes off of the audit. There's a separate audit that goes for CRA. And as you know, we've been behind audits and whatnot. To give you a date, there's some events that happened today. And I have to talk to consultants all next week to see what they can do to get the audit pushed. Our auditors are James Moore, and we had a meeting with them yesterday, and we meet with them every other week. We are in what, again, I said this last meeting, we're in a gray out period where they can't use resources to help us get caught up, because now they're helping cities who have been compliant to stay compliant, and this is the annual time for them to do their audits, so they're doing their normal audits. And then they said they were hoping to have it done by April 30th, but after today, I doubt that.
And the only other comment I had, Mr. Mayor, if I could please, is to Mr. Testa. I went to the plan board meeting where they asked the builder to make modifications. I wasn't able to go to the second one, but I was again really impressed with the plan board and how invested they are and the questions they ask, and they serve this community tremendously well as volunteers. But I was also really impressed with the builder and how agreeable he was, and having those kinds of constructive conversations really pays dividends out big time in terms of what we ended up getting. So I appreciate you for pointing that out, Mr. Testa. Thank you, sir.
All right, any other commissioner comments? All right, one thing Mr. Lanier left out is every Friday night at the Lions Club is karaoke night. That's my favorite night. Yeah, I do it every Friday. I do.
Road trip.
Fridays are great, so make sure you come out to the Lions Club. All right. New business item number 1, discuss and consider an act on resolution 2026-A.
Sorry, I've got too many papers over here. Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of High Springs, Florida, granting the appropriate conditions and safeguards, a conditional use permit as authorized by the City of High Springs Land Development Code pursuant to an application CUP 25-01 by the property owners, providing for a conditional use to permit 6 duplex structures totaling 12 duplex dwelling units within a commercial residential C1 zoning district, as provided for in Table 2.02.01 of the Land Development Code, providing for revocation of the conditional use permit, repealing all resolutions in conflict, and providing an effective date. Mr. Mayor, this is a quasi-judicial matter, so I would request that anyone who intends to speak on this matter, please stand, raise your right hand to be sworn in. And we'll just go around the room, and I will have everyone state their name for the clerk, loudly as you can. We'll start with you up front.
Brad Bauer.
Okay. Sir?
Scott Jameson.
Julie Tapiorana.
Michael Carrillo. Joe White. Lance Briner.
Lisa Fowler.
Sergio Cruz. Rick Testa.
Did I get everybody? Oh, sorry. If you all remain standing, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. You are all duly sworn. If anyone has any materials regarding this quasi-judicial matter that are not already in the packet, please present that to the clerk this time. Okay. I will now go across the board and ask you if there have been any ex parte communications regarding this matter. Again, an ex parte communication is any conversation, site visits, anything that's happened outside of a publicly noticed hearing.
I did visit the site and spoke to staff and asked some questions about the project.
Okay, and can you give us tell us what those conversations were?
Sorry, I don't have it on. I just looked at the site to see where it was sitting at, where the boundaries are, and then I was just asking questions because I did go to the planning board meeting and was unclear about some things about it. So I was asking staff questions, Christie, on the facility, the duplex size and things like that. But nothing too far as make me go sway either way on any decision on that. I just, informational purposes only.
Okay, and none of that information will be used in your decision tonight?
just knowledge about the site and what the buildings are.
But only as far as that information is presented under oath. Okay. Mr. Mayor?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
I drove by the site. I haven't walked on it. I did listen to the plan board meeting in its entirety as I wasn't able to be there. And I did ask staff, I asked Mr. Marshall if it could be recorded so that I could listen to it. After the meeting, I had a conversation with a plan board member, Mr. Testa. And that's the entirety of my ex parte conversations. And none of what was learned or discussed will impact my decision here.
Thank you.
I've gone by the site, just the same as Commissioner Bloodsworth, just to get my eyes on it and see how it was going to be laid out. But that
That
I will
won't impact
listen
your
to only what they
decision
say in here.
I walked the property as well. I will use only the facts to make a decision tonight.
Thank you. All right. Turn it over to you.
All right. Could you read in the letter from Mr. Lance?
Mr. Mayor, this is a letter dated January 21st, 2026 from Lance Briner regarding the conditional use permit CUP 25-01 proposed duplex development adjacent to River Run Plantation. Dear members of the City Commission, I'm writing as a resident of River Run Plantation to submit public comment regarding conditional use permit CUP 25-01 for the proposed duplex development adjacent to our neighborhood. I respectfully urge the Commission to approach this decision as a quasi-judicial determination governed by specific approval standards, not as a housing policy decision. Even desirable housing must comply with the conditional use criteria established in the city's code. Last night, the Plan Board conducted 3 separate votes and was unable to make the findings necessary to approve this application. The Board could not reach agreement regarding unit count, buffering type, or compatibility conditions. This reflects unresolved questions about whether the required standards have been satisfied. That advisory failure is significant. When the reviewing board cannot find compliance, the Commission should proceed with caution and should not substitute policy preference for missing or unresolved evidence. Several critical evidentiary deficiencies remain in the record. No traffic impact study, crash history analysis, or access safety evaluation has been submitted for the US 41 Northwest 20th Lane entrance. No buffering adequacy analysis has been provided, and portions of the site plan designate broken buffer along the boundaries adjacent to single-family homes. No compatibility analysis has been submitted addressing the abrupt transition between 6 duplex buildings in an established single-family subdivision. No cumulative impact analysis has been prepared considering existing nearby commercial development combined with this proposal. Traffic safety under the conditional use standards is a city finding, not an FDOT permitting issue. The Commission must independently determine whether this project will not create or excessively increase traffic hazards. That finding cannot reasonably be made without competent substantial evidence in the record. Conditions cannot substitute for missing proof or cure fundamental incompatibility. The fact that even the board could not agree on unit count or buffering demonstrates that the project design itself is not yet settled enough for approval. I would also respectfully note that following the conclusion of the Plan Board meeting, several homeowners were informed by one of the developers that if this project were not approved, a commercial use such as a Mavis tire facility could be pursued instead. That statement was made outside the record and is not part of this application. The Commission may evaluate only the project before it, not hypothetical alternatives or informal representations made after the hearing. This is not an opposition to housing. It is a request that housing be approved only when the applicant has demonstrated compliance with the safety, buffering, compatibility, and neighborhood impact standards required by the code. Based on the record as it currently stands, those findings cannot yet be made. Thank you for your careful consideration. Respectfully, Lance Briner, River Run Plantation homeowner.
Okay, so my only question as of right now is, what was the result of the Plan Board meeting? So did they table it or?
There were 3 motions. 1 motion failed for lack of a second. 2 motions went to vote. 2-2 vote both times. Board was unable to come to a determination.
Okay.
I will note that the plan, as noted, 2-2 vote, the Plan Board did have 4 members at the meeting instead of full board.
Okay. Any commissioner questions?
Mr. Mayor, am I able to ask questions pertaining to what I learned in the building meeting Tuesday night, planning board meeting?
So my recommendation would be to, because this is a quasi-judicial hearing, to allow staff presentation, applicant presentation, and then based on the evidence that's presented to you tonight, ask questions. And they can be pertaining to what was represented in the planning board meeting. Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask that we have the applicant present and staff present, and then we can cross?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, everybody was just looking at me, so I didn't know. So we'll have the applicant present.
Good evening. My name is Sergio Cruz, land planner with Menandir Engineering. The following information is being provided to support our request for a conditional use permit to allow 12-unit duplex development within the commercial C1 zoning district. The approximately 1.5 acre site is located at the southwest corner of the intersection of US Highway 41 and Northwest 20th Lane, also known as Boat Ramp Road, with access being provided from said Northwest 20th Lane. What we are proposing is 6 residential duplex buildings, totaling 12 dwelling units, with stormwater, utilities, and landscaping being provided, along with pedestrian access. The conceptual site plan that you see provided illustrates compliance with the High Springs Code of Ordinances and alignment with the High Springs Comprehensive Plan. The maximum density allowed within the C1 zoning, which is the subject property is found in, is 12 dwelling units per acre. Since the site, again, is approximately 1.5 acres, the project could technically accommodate 18 dwelling units or about 9 duplex structures, if the applicant chose to build out at the maximum allowable density. However, this is not what's being proposed. The applicant is proposing 12 dwelling units in 6 residential structures, which comes out to roughly 8 dwelling units per acre. This is intentional and is in line with smart growth, focusing on well-designed, high-quality community that fits the area appropriately, rather than simply maximizing the density, because the zoning allows it. This request also reduces the potential effect on the surrounding properties, because again, we're proposing 12 dwelling units instead of the maximum 18. Parking will also be provided at a rate of 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit, with a total of 30 parking spaces provided, which includes 6 guest parking spots. Each duplex will consist of a 1-car garage with a single parking space in the driveway. With regards to screening from adjacent properties, the required building setbacks are met according to the code, and the minimum 10-foot wide buffer is provided along the perimeter of the site. This is highlighted with the green hatch that is around the entire property. The proposed landscape plan would comply with the requirements of the Code of Ordinances, which includes the 10-foot wide buffer along the whole boundary, with the intent of preserving and protecting existing trees to the greatest extent possible during the site design phase, as well as including enhanced landscaping. Although not shown in the concept plan, the owners will intend to put a 6-foot fence along the western boundary adjacent to the residential subdivision. This would be in addition to the enhanced landscaping. The fence would be located behind the additional landscape so as to not be visible from the residential subdivision once all the shrubs and trees mature. Additionally, there are no floodlights proposed, so there will be no glare or light pollution impacting the neighboring properties. The only lighting will be small fixtures attached to the front of the buildings, which is the interior of the site. With regards to utilities, there is an existing force main along the front of the subject property, which is accessible without expansion. The existing water main will be extended along the property boundary, along the east property boundary, to serve the development. And with regard to stormwater management, it will be provided on site, and the concept plan allocates approximately 20% of the site to drainage. In terms of ingress and egress, this will be provided again along Northwest 20th Lane. Conceptually, the access is located approximately 120 feet from the intersection of US Highway 41 and Northwest 20th Lane. This will allow a significant queuing distance on Northwest 20th and will not adversely impact the functionality of the corridor. A T turnaround is proposed on site for first responders, package delivery, Amazon, FedEx, and for garbage trucks. And the auto turn exhibit that's on the screen now shows that there's sufficient room for large emergency vehicles. In this case, we show a large fire truck. There are no structures, landscaping, or objects that would obstruct the view of passenger vehicles entering or exiting the site. In terms of pedestrian access, there is also an internal network of sidewalks that is provided to help pedestrian connectivity from the north to the south of the site and vice versa. Sidewalks are also proposed along the right-of-way on US Highway 41 and Northwest 20th Lane, extending all the way from the southeast portion of the site to the northeast portion of the site along the east boundary. This further improves the sidewalk network that exists along City of High Springs with pedestrian safety, connectivity, and accessibility considered as part of this request. With regards to zoning, the site is bounded by C3 to the south and southeast with R1 to the west. The proposed duplex development provides a transition between the single-family residential to the west and the more intense commercial uses to the south. This pattern aligns with accepted planning practices and is consistent with the character of existing land use patterns in the surrounding areas. The parcel is also located at the end of the commercial corridor, which is US Highway 41, which you see along the corridor extending from the city center all the way out to the periphery, that all the parcels adjacent to the right-of-way are zone C3. So naturally, when you reach towards the end, it transitions to the C1 and then later R1. This makes sense for the subject parcel to transition as a residential shift from the more intense commercial uses. We also wanted to highlight to the right the allowable uses by right within C1. These uses would likely cause more of a noise and light nuisance, be less of a seamless transition from the single-family residential, and have more peak daily trips, especially when you're looking at uses such as the convenience store and the brewery tap room. These are just a few of the uses that are currently allowed by right without the need for a conditional use or a special use permit in the C1 zoning, and they are much more intense than what we are proposing. Here we have a graph that shows the peak hour trips for some of the commercial uses and the residential uses in the surrounding areas and within the C1 permitted uses. This data is gathered from ITE Trip Generation Manual, which is a standard, and we can see that the proposed development will generate approximately 6 p.m. peak hour trips. This is shown by the orange bar furthest to the left, which says 12 duplex units. To put it in perspective, many of the common allowable uses within the commercial C1 generate significantly higher peak hour traffic than what we are proposing. The convenience store, for example, can generate approximately 147 vehicles traveled per hour. This is shown by the red bar second last to the right. And the brewery tap room can generate approximately 185 vehicles traveled per hour. Even the smaller scale commercial developments such as the gym or dance studio typically generate around 10 p.m. peak hour trips, and the repair shop and dry cleaning and laundromat can generate around 20 p.m. peak hour trips. We also looked at the surrounding residential development as a comparison. The nearby subdivision with 40 single-family homes is estimated to generate 38 p.m. peak hour trips, which is substantially higher than what we are proposing. Overall, the proposed conditional use is expected to have very limited traffic impact and will not create or excessively increase the traffic that is already existing in the area. To summarize, the proposed development intends to provide a safe, comfortable, and convenient place to live for current and future High Springs residents that does not adversely affect the health, safety, or welfare of the surrounding community. Duplexes offer alternative and oftentimes more affordable housing options that within this context naturally fit within the urban fabric and the development patterns of the area. And it also helps with the natural transition, again, between the single-family residential and the more intense commercial that exists further south. The concept is intended to exemplify smart and thoughtful growth, and by providing pedestrian and emergency access, connecting to centralized utilities, and having code-compliant buffers installed. The buffers will provide aesthetic appeal and also provide further buffering from the proposed use to the adjacent properties. The applicants are also local home builders who have been part of this community for over 50 years. They are builders who care about the quality of the homes, but more importantly, care about the community that they're contributing to. The applicants are also willing to work with the city and are open to meeting and considering any additional conditions that the commission feels are appropriate. However, we do believe that this proposal is within the code thresholds. It proposes 12 dwelling units rather than the maximum 18, 6 residential structures rather than the maximum 9, would generate fewer PM trips than the residential development and far fewer than many of the commercial uses allowed by right, and also provides an enhanced buffer with a fence along the west boundary to help shield adjacent properties. So based on this information provided, we respectfully request approval of this conditional use application. Thank you.
Yes, that's the scope of work. They have a condition, they're asking for a conditional use permit, which is, all multifamily must come to you all for a conditional use. There is no zoning category in which it is permittable by right. So C1, C2, and C3, all the commercial districts, they would have to come to you. So that, the reason they have to get a conditional use, just because it's duplex, normally a single duplex would be allowable by right, but this is multifamily, so multiple duplexes, multifamily. He is correct that the zoning categories along the highway are C3, more intensive uses that need more land area, and then it does turn into C1, which is generally a neighborhood commercial type, usually offices, the convenience stores, without gasoline, but they do meet the requirements that are spelled out in code. At the plan board meeting, we did have a lot of different discussions about landscaping, traffic, whatnot. We were unable to come up with a recommendation, but just looking at the code side of things, there's nothing specific I see that they are not meeting through the data. Now, that isn't to say you could assign, you could still assign different conditional uses, just like my plan board was attempting to. They had a few motions that were regarding density, regarding landscaping, fences, and whatnot. So that is an option to you if you think that they don't meet one of the criteria, the 1 through 8 criteria in the code. They have to meet all 8. So overall, if you have any technical questions on what the code requires with their landscaping, their density, I'm available for those questions, but anything specific to what their scope of work is, I would say ask their engineers.
Mr. Mayor, is this the time where we have questions or comments, or do we take public comment first? I'm not sure. Kirsten?
Typically, the next, I'm assuming, I haven't heard that no affected parties have registered, third-party interveners, nothing like that. We haven't heard from anyone on those. Okay, so then it would be public comment, and then it would go to the applicant for rebuttal, and then finally for you all for questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so for those that swore in, if you want to speak at this time.
Yes, my name is Lisa Fowler, and I live on Boat Ramp Road. I keep hearing 20th. To my knowledge, that's 210th Lane. Am I incorrect in my street address? Okay. My question is, I really have one. I am concerned about the safety of traffic. As you know, we have people going to the boat ramp, and while I realize that it's 6 more trips or whatever the peak thing was, I don't agree with that, because there will be more people coming in to visit those things. We've had several of our local residents have major accidents there at that because people aren't slowing down. And so while I know 441 is a federal highway, what is the city of High Springs? What are your plans? What has been proposed to help reduce rear ends? Because I will be honest, almost every night turning in, I'm not really looking in front of me, I'm looking behind me to determine if I'm about to get hit in the rear end. And there have been plenty of times I've just took my foot off my brake, braced to get rear-ended. So I think there is that concern, regardless of, 6 cars, 10 cars, 12 cars. I think that, plus, people go to the boat ramp all the time on the weekends. So I get that that may not affect the subdivision, but it does affect the overall amount of traffic that comes in and out of that main entrance. I just want to understand that. And again, we're talking about fences and barriers and who maintains that after all of that is done. And the other thing I see on I'm sorry, I get very nervous talking in front of crowds. I see that there is a trust that also holds for that property, but I don't see them mentioned in any of the paperwork. And I don't know if that plays into a factor of that. I don't know if anybody can explain that. Maybe they don't have to be part of the development. I don't know the answer to that, so I'm asking that question. So that's really all my concern is the traffic. As somebody who lives on that road, you know, to me, it doesn't, in my opinion, most of the homes in that subdivision are 1+ acre, single family. Most of the ones going down Boat Ramp Road are 1 to 2 acres, some are more, single families. And I know we have some mobile homes and things that have been there for years, but I just don't know that that really meets the aesthetic. And I don't know that that's falls in line. So those are just my comments and considerations. Thank you.
Brad Bauer. I live. The back of my lot is right where the angled unit is and catches part of that retention pond. And I talked the other night about, actually read from a letter about the setbacks and the light pollution. And it seemed like maybe he addressed that issue, but my son is a builder here in town. He built that house for us in 2020. We bought the lot in 2018. I have a daughter who lives here and another son who lives here in Ashton. And just want to speak to a couple of the things. I do have a couple of questions regarding the project. One that still has not been answered, at least that I know of. Are these units going to be owned? Are they going to be rented? If they're rented, is any of it going to be subsidized? And I know at some point as time goes on, those become moot points as ownership changes, ownership transfers. And then the second thing really to me is, because I've walked that property also myself, there are a couple of aging live oaks at the back, which are actually on my neighbor's lot line. A lot of the trees are those native oaks. They lean various ways, but it's obvious to me a lot of those are going to have to come down. And so that just seems to be the way it is in construction. I was able to preserve a lot of them on my lot, and I'm glad I did. Wish I'd taken a couple more out, but so if you would just, and this is more of an ambiance since we've been talking about the trail and the Lisa talked about Boat Ramp Road itself. It's kind of an eclectic mixture of housing. Has some really nice stuff, has some older stuff, and of course as time goes on, some of that older, smaller stuff will probably be purchased by people coming into the area, and they may put up nicer properties. And just if you will, just imagine we have to take a granddaughter over to Newberry sometimes a couple times a week, and it's a hot summer day, and we're coming back, just my wife and I, and we're going down 441 from Main Street, and we get to that, make that left turn onto Boat Ramp, and I turn right, and I'm in the shade. I've got those overhanging trees, and it's like I'm back in old Florida again. And the character of that road and just how pleasant it is out there. It's just something that when I turn off that road on a hot summer day, it's just like peaceful. And I really appreciate that part of it. The only other thing I would say is I'm apprehensive about jamming lower cost property up against what I think is just a very beautiful subdivision very spacious, and
Sir, I'm sorry.
you know, I respectfully request that the project be denied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Joe White, and I live in the River Run Plantation subdivision. I've lived there for several years, and this is the third time I've been back to this particular area. It's where I decided to retire. And it's interesting, we had options in Gainesville and others, but we decided to come to High Springs. And I also want to thank you all for what you do. Being commissioners, being mayor, it's many times not a very thankful position. And a lot of times, the right decision is the tough decision. And my concern is about the infrastructure. And, you know, how do you afford this? It's easy to get excited about this project or that project, but how do you support it down the road with the infrastructure and maintenance that's required? We had 3 years worth of broken promises just to make a repair at the entrance to the subdivision. Why? Lack of money. And so when we look at these projects and you look at the high density of it, and you look at the numbers of cars that they get an estimate from somebody, it comes here, and you look at it and you say, okay, but when you run those numbers and you're going to look at 8,000 to 10,000 more cars on Boat Ramp Road coming and going, how are you going to afford to maintain that road? What does it really give you back? And this is not just about this project, but it's about your planning board and what they do. And what is it long term on how do you fund it and take care of it so it stays in good shape? Everybody understands we're in Alachua County, you pay the highest taxes, and you have the worst county roads. You know, that's the reality of what we're dealing with. And so when you look at these projects from the planning board's point of view, and some of them, it's the first time I attended the planning board meeting, some of those people took the time to walk the property. Other ones questioned the density, the high density of where we are and what we're doing. Other ones said, our hands are tied. You know, and I understand in some situations they are, but here we are. Again, other ones said everybody wants low cost housing, but it's not here. All that shows me is they didn't do their due diligence and look at the housing that's on Boat Ramp Road.
Sir,
Sits
that's
at
your
all
time.
levels. And we knew that when we moved there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Scott Jameson, I live in River Run too. I just got a couple questions on the first one. It talks about there will be no adverse effect to the property values. Well, I would say they're wrong. And I've talked with people about it, that you're gonna put in duplexes into a adjacent. And let me just give you some numbers on the deal so you can understand my concern. The smallest lot in River Run is 1.1 acre. Okay, the smallest home is 2,000 square feet. We're going to put 16 or 12 units on 1.5 acres. But you got 2 retention ponds that are going to be on there. So in essence, if you get to the actual construction, I'm going to assume you're going to put the 12, whatever it is on the deal, you're only going to put it on about an acre by the time you put all the stuff in there. So the density part concerns me greatly. We can go back nostalgia and everything like this. We were the 5th home that was built in there, and obviously you could sit out there and you had all the trees and it's beautiful. Well, I'm concerned just from that standpoint that a lot of those trees are going to come down and it changes the culture. then it says the proposed, the property values, like I said, aren't going to do it. So let me ask you a question. This is the sarcastic part of me, and you'll remember when I was on the commission, that was part of my deal. When my home loses its value, who do I go to get the additional money for what it should be? Now, I'm joking, but it's the truth on the deal. You all are going to approve it. So I just want to make sure we understand that, you know, when it gets to the value deal, we've got these and we got the homes. To me, that they don't. The next thing says it's consistent with the character of existing land use. Well, I don't know what that means. It's not consistent with anything right there. There's no duplexes next to a subdivision anywhere around there, unless I'm missing it. So I'm trying to figure out, how is it consistent with the character of the existing land? We're alternate. We're taking out the trees. We've altered everything. So I understand this business. You got land. We're going to build on it. My dad was a businessman. I get it. And I know to put it down to half of those units and so forth doesn't make financial sense. You can't do that. But this will change the whole culture of our neighborhood where we're at. It's just going to change the traffic. It's going to change it. Number 3 says it will not create or excessively increase traffic. So we're being told it's going to increase. Otherwise, you don't use the word excessively. And then somebody's going to have to explain what that means. What number is excessively when you get there? Thank you all.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, City Attorney. My name is Michael Carrillo. I am also a resident in the River Run Plantation area. Some of the things Mr. Jameson was just referring to are part of the 8 standards that are required to be met for a development to be approved. The applicant did a great job of talking about the worst things that could be put there in comparison, but as I think was alluded to in someone's comments recently, we're not looking at what could go there, we're looking at what they're proposing. What was notable to me in all of these 8 standards is reference to the immediate neighborhood, surrounding area, surrounding areas. How many of you know the difference between minor surgery and major surgery? Minor surgery, from the doctor's perspective, is easy. Major surgery is anything you're doing on my body. And when you're referring to the immediate neighborhood and the surrounding areas, I would like to ask you to consider that there is reasonable doubt. I know that's not a real factor in this hearing, but there is reasonable doubt as to whether all of those considerations have been truly vetted out and resolved. And I think that's also represented by the fact that the planning board was not able to conscionably recommend to this commission that the plan be approved, the cut be approved. And so thank you for your time. We appreciate what you do here. As was also alluded to earlier, sometimes a thankless job, but thank you for what you do, and appreciate your consideration of our concerns.
Julie Tapia-Ruano, member of the Planning Board. On Tuesday night, I just want to point out, and Chris, to correct me if we're wrong, did our presenter talk about or disclose any fence before and during the meeting? I was not aware of any fence talk until the end of the meeting. I'll go on. And then we didn't see the same candlebar grass. We also did not see the facade picture of a sample building. As far as I knew, that I didn't see a fence line proposed. Maybe I missed it. We did discuss that as condition. One of the conditions we kept trying to play with was there was a variances of reduced number with increased buffer and or with a fence. Any combination of those were our conditions that we were trying to put on there. We had one denied without a second. We had a 2-2 tie on the other two issues. But I just want to clarify that we may not have seen the exact same data that you have been presented with tonight. And I gave a very practical mom sense version of the traffic perception. If you're going to have maybe 6 to 12 small families, young families, they might have small children, you might have 2 spouses working, that's the maximum potential maybe. You're going to have 12, 24 cars making 6 trips in the evening. And just from a mom's sense of raising 5 kids in High Springs, with the activities, the school, with church, with husband working, all of that, I could have gone in and out of my neighborhood 4 to 6 times in one evening, one person. Then you add everything else. So I think their number 6, and I brought that up in the meeting, is quite low and could be verified as a much higher number.
All right, was that all the citizen comments?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lance Brenner. You read my letter, and I'm a homeowner in River Run Plantation. I'm speaking as a resident. I want to briefly clarify an important point. Compliance with zoning does not satisfy a conditional use permit. Zoning determines what may be considered. A conditional use requires the applicant to demonstrate through competent, substantial evidence that each of the 8, not some of the 8, not most of the 8, all of the 8 standards are satisfied. In this case, several standards are not met. First, as I mentioned in my letter, the traffic and public safety standard is not satisfied. No traffic impact study, crash analysis, or access safety evaluation has been submitted despite being proposed on a high-speed corridor, which me and my neighbors routinely have to put on our hazard lights way down the road before we come to a stop because we've witnessed people just run into each other. That's a 55-mile-an-hour zone there. Second, the buffering and screening is not satisfied. The site plan shows limited buffering, including areas labeled as broken buffers, and no analysis has been demonstrated protecting the residents of the surrounding area from noise, lighting, activity, or privacy impact. Third, the compatibility standard is not satisfied. The proposal places high density, 2-story, not 1-story, 2-story townhouse duplexes immediately adjacent to a neighborhood that's primarily 1-story single-family homes. No compatibility or transition analysis has been submitted to address height, scale, massing, or privacy impacts, including this upper story overlooking the backyards directly. Fourth, the quality of life and nuisance standards are not satisfied. No noise study, no studies on lighting spillover or operational impact has been submitted, and no cumulative impact analysis has been prepared, by the recent commercial development. Fifth, the public health, safety, and welfare standard is not satisfied as it incorporates traffic safety, buffering compatibility, cumulative impacts, and all which remain unresolved. Fifth, as mentioned earlier this evening, that the plan board conducted 3, not 1, not 2, 3 separate votes, and they were unable to reach the findings necessary to recommend approval. This lack of consensus reflects unresolved deficiencies in the current proposal. This is not an opposition to the housing. It's a request that the housing be approved only when the applicant has met the burden of demonstrating compliance with all the required standards. So again, just failing to meet one standard.
Sir, that's your time.
Requires denial. 5 of the 8
That's your
compels
time.
denial.
That's your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other citizen comments? Okay. Oh, okay. So we'll have the applicant come back if you have any others.
So, with regards to addressing some of the questions and concerns from the public, I'll try to kind of go chronologically. With regards to the traffic study, this will be conducted if deemed necessary. Obviously, safety is a priority, and if this conditional use were approved, we would do the necessary steps, coordinate with FDOT, provide all the necessary site plans, grading, traffic study, obviously drainage. So all the necessary steps to show that a traffic study, crash data analysis is conducted would be done. In terms of the graph that was shown, the peak hours reference 4 to 6 p.m. So it's not data saying that there would only be 6 vehicles traveled per day. It's an estimate on how many vehicles would enter and exit the site during the period of 4 to 6 p.m. on the weekday basis. The applicants intend to sell the units, so there will be a HOA that maintains the fence, the roads, the internal aspects of the site. A tree mitigation plan would be done for the older trees, the trees that need to be removed, and along the western boundary where there are fewer trees, again, there would be enhanced landscaping with shrubs and trees. In terms of the term broken buffer, this is a term that's exactly taken from the code, which is what's the code? So we just put the term broken buffer directly from the High Springs Code of Ordinances. And not to deal in hypotheticals, but it is important to consider what can go there, especially when you have such high intensity uses in C1, because in 4 or 5 years, if not residential, a commercial use could likely come, which would cause higher intensity and put more strain on traffic and on utilities. As such, the convenience store or the brewery. Developers will be responsible for extending the utilities, and the city is likely to gain from this development in terms of property taxes and impact fees. Having residential in the form of the duplexes next to residential in the form of R1 single family is more consistent than having a hardline commercial in the form of a brewery or a convenience store. So when we talk about a natural transition, that is what we're talking about, having the R1 residential to another form of residential property in terms of duplexes, and then having the commercial C1 and C3 corridor further south. With regards to the difference in the presentation from Tuesday to today, we took the comments into consideration from both the public and between the deliberation of the plan board, which is why we added the rendering, the fence line, the graph. Again, this shows the applicant's willingness to work with the commission and be receptive to the feedback received from the public and the plan board. For the 2 stories, we received information that the trees some of them might be 30 foot high. So in terms of the second story, the trees could potentially block the view from the trees, and again, the applicants would consider having higher fences if necessary. I believe this addressed most of the comments and questions that the public had, and if the commission has any further questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
All right. I did want to say I kind of understand the transition portion of this. When we look at the elementary school, it goes to commercial, then it has the apartments behind it, and then it goes to residential. When we look at on the other side of town, you go from Ace Hardware, then there is a trailer park, and then there's a development right behind it. So I do a little bit understand the transition. I will say one point that I did like about this development is the fact that there is guest parking. And the reason why I say that is because when you go to the apartment complex that's behind the schoolhouse, that it gets very wacky back there. But I do think that there is going to be a lot more information that we're going to need in order to make a decision. I mean, that's not for me, my call alone, but I do think we're going to need some more information. I will say also, as a general, I forgot the young lady that asked the question, but about the 441, one of my concerns earlier on is that with commercial being on 441, we don't do commercial lighting. So one of the biggest issues on 441 is it's so dark, so people are like almost running into each other because it's very dark. So I know that we try to safeguard because residents are there, but one of the reasons why that all of those accidents happen on 441 is because it is very fast right there, but then it's very dark also. Any commissioner questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, yes, please, if I may, sir. I've looked over this and I listened to the plan board meeting. Mr. Cruz, I appreciate your input so much. And thank you to all the residents for coming here tonight. The burden is on the applicant to provide competent, substantial evidence that they have met the requirements of all of these 8 conditions. And I've reviewed them, and I would say that we're lacking in 4 of those. Number 1, the proposed conditional use will not adversely affect or contribute to the deterioration of quality of life or property values in the immediate neighborhood. The applicant has not provided any comps to support that claim. We don't have any evidence to back up that claim, so I would say that we do not have adequate evidence to support number 1. Number 2, the proposed conditional use is consistent with the character of and existing land use patterns in the surrounding area. It's completely inconsistent with density of an adjacent R1 property. So I would say there's complete inconsistency there. I understand the commercial, around it, but I would say that's inconsistent. Number 4, the site upon which the proposed conditional use is to be located has suitable drainage, access, ingress and egress, off-street parking, and loading areas. It may well, but we don't have there's no competent, substantial geotechnical evidence provided to support that at all. I realize that the geotech investigation comes later. However, we're being asked to approve a consumptive use permit without any kind of evidence to say there's adequate drainage. And then number 5, the site upon which the conditional use is to be located has screening or buffering to prevent interference with the enjoyment of surrounding areas. From what I understood from the plan board meeting, listening to it, the proposed concept appears to infer almost complete deforestation of the property. There are beautiful trees on that property, and that having that piece of property completely raised, I would suggest does indeed impact the enjoyment of surrounding areas. Watching all those trees come down. So, Mr. Mayor, I would say that they have failed to meet the burden of proof on 4 of the 8 conditions.
I thought Mr. Briner did a great job of explaining and actually brought up some questions for me. And the way I was leaning initially to go with this, and I thought you did a great presentation, I want you to know. But I do want some of those questions answered before we do it. Yeah, I would almost, it'd be my desire to table this until they can bring us back some more information. That would be the way I would lean on this thing for right now. That's where I'm at.
Mr. Mayor, I also have some questions. Knowing that area and the boat ramp road from my time being here, I'm worried about the condition of the road myself. I already know what the condition of it is. I'd like to know a DOT traffic study, not just, I need some backing on this. And like Commissioner White says, the trees are gonna have to go. That's just a tight area. even talking about the fence after seeing the picture that was not presented the other night, I guess I didn't do my due diligence. I thought it was single-story homes and not two-story. I mean, are you gonna put a 20-foot fence because those individuals that live on the back side of that, sitting on their back porch, they're gonna be looking at the top of this house, and people gonna be looking out the window at them. They're gonna lose their dignity as far as privacy. I know with the McDonald's going in, the gym going in with the lighting situation, I visited the gym at 10 or 11 o'clock to see the lights. I know they've been trying to work on that. I don't know that it's completely settled. I don't want this to be another sore to them. I also don't want to stop a project when it's legally supposed to be there or can go there. I don't want a convenience store to go there. I don't want a tire store or liquor store. That's not good for them. I was under the impression this was single-story homes. I don't like it being two-story because those people living on the back side are not going to be happy there. I would be unhappy if that was being put in my backyard or my front door that I was going to be looking at. I like what you've done if that's what it's going to look like, I like that. I was even proposing to have an 8-foot fence that was going to mirror the color of this green or the tan, not just old white vinyl fencing or wood plank that's going to destroy in 3 years. But even if you put an 8-foot fence, that's not going to do anything for the people on the back side. Those are my concerns. And then I can't remember her name, talking about a trust on the property. I'm not sure what that would entail later on in the life of the property, what that is. But the road trips, I'm also knowing that being a driver and delivery driver on the road and in High Springs, I don't think those numbers are accurate. I've been in that subdivision delivering, going through there. I know what comes in and out, at least was back then. I can't imagine it's probably more. And down Boat Ramp Road as well. So I need more information before I move forward with it. Thank you for your presentation, though.
Mr. Mayor, you've got the 1.5 acres there. The 2 acres that are next to it, that's commercial or is that residential as well? There's 2.1.
So to the south is commercial. It is also C1, that's where the gym is, and then a little further is C3, which is also a commercial district.
So there's not 2 acres separating that 1.5 from the commercial. Okay.
No, it's the triangular shape is C1.
Okay.
Directly south is the gym.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, for me, one of the things that we deal with here is the geological studies. I would like to see that. And yeah, the comps. Commissioner White's made a good point. Trying to find comps and you know, having facts that whether it's going to lower the value of these homes, and I'd like to see something like that as well.
Mr. Mayor, if I may make one more request. One thing that I think would help also, and I know that the Plan Board had asked about this as well, you know, you're talking about single-family homes directly abutting it on at least an acre of land, and you're trying to, my understanding is that these dwelling units would be about 600 square feet. That's tiny, right? Or the one side of the duplex, is that correct?
The dwelling unit, since it's 2 stories, there's 1,800 feet of habitable area. So the first story would be roughly 800 square feet.
Okay.
And the second story would be roughly 1,000 square feet. The bottom story is less because there's a garage.
So that's 1,800 square feet for the residents.
Of habitable area per unit.
And when you say habitable area, is that air conditioned?
Yes.
Okay, so then the garage is separate?
Separate, exactly. So
Okay.
that's why the bottom, the first story is 800 square feet.
My opinion is that this would be a more agreeable transition. Just because you can put 8 in there and you're only putting 6 doesn't mean it's the best thing to do, in my opinion. If you even cut it down by more. I understand 1.5 acres is difficult to really maximize the ROI. I understand that. But if you put 3 in instead, bigger, perhaps, that might help with the comp, that might help with the traffic, And it would still allow you to have, 6 dwelling units available, and it's still a pretty small space. I think it would be a more agreeable transition if the number was lower. So, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, one more. As y'all have touched on things, and I believe Mr. Jameson said, and some of the other comments from the other night, do we have things to give us property values when a proposed goes in? Because I want to protect what their property value is. If it's worth $500,000 or more, and this goes in and it does take it down, that's on us if we allow that. That's not fair to the homeowner. And not to say that it will, but is there a system where we have backing knowing that it's not going to hurt them to protect their interest and their property? That was another one I was concerned about. And I like your idea about less but bigger, and then you're not going to decimate the trees and the landscape to protect the trees that we have. And then if it was single, that would give some sort of privacy for the people that live on the other side of the fence. I know it needs to be worked out some way, but I'm not happy the way it is right here for the citizens that live behind there. And that's my only concern as well.
All right. City Attorney.
You were just looking at me, so I was thinking maybe you had a question.
Oh, no, I didn't
I'll
have
make a motion. I'll make a motion that we table this matter until we get more of our questions answered. To give the individual time to come back with some of those answers.
I'll second.
Citizen comments? Do we do citizen comments?
Just briefly before we move to citizen comments, so that staff can make sure that we communicate with the applicant well and the applicant understands their requirements. Questions outstanding include traffic, geological studies, comps regarding value, plan for the trees. Have I
Boom.
accurately
Nailed it.
got all the questions? I know that there are other
Yeah.
preferences regarding fewer
What?
units and that kind of thing, but the questions as far as additional information that you need, have I covered?
Well, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just have it on record that I believe that we're lacking competent substantial evidence in the 4 items that I mentioned. So, yeah.
Okay, as far as those as well. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that we know when you're ready to have it back.
All right. Citizen comments?
Hi there, Brian Bisher, High Springs. I haven't been sworn in, but
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you very much. I'm not sure that tabling it and actually not putting a date certain on it is going to be beneficial for this board, primarily because there's a lot of issues that they have to cover that are going to take some time. So it seems like the motions that you had before from the Planning and Zoning Board were at an impasse, which I would think that would have probably sent it to you all with a recommendation for denial, since it didn't actually pass. And so that said, I would suggest, there's a lot of issues that they need to cover that are more than just changing some lines on a map, and would benefit this board to make that very clear to them and make a recommendation for denial. Change your motion. Thank you.
Good evening,
She's not
Janet
sworn in.
Evans. I wanted to.
One second, Miss Janice. She's not sworn.
I'm just making a comment. I'm not giving any kind of testimony.
The public comment doesn't have to be sworn if they choose not to.
Okay.
Okay. Just sitting as a person in the room, I just wanted to comment what a difference 3 years makes. We were having discussions about density and projects going on in High Springs not too long ago. And these kinds of discussions, input from residents and questions coming from the commissioners, they weren't taking place. They weren't happening at all. We had a solar farm put in. We had all kinds of construction going on in the city that were very, very against what we're talking about, the culture that we're trying to have here in the city. And it's just very nice to sit here in the audience and hear all of the input and all of the questions and all of the conversation. And it really is a big turnaround from where our city was 3 years ago. And I just wanted to say that this was good to witness. Thank you.
My name is Charles Parrish. I just have a comment. I know that engineers and builders, as well as cities and so forth, our building codes for the county and the state and the city often has buildings erected sometimes 3 foot higher than original grade. How do I know? House was built next door to me. And fortunately, this guy was kind enough to go and bury cross ties 3 deep, 4 deep, with medium cloth, just to keep his fill dirt on his property, because it started washing to mine. So that's just a comment I wanted to make regarding, looks to me like at least 2 retention ponds. The last time the river came up, I could still get to my house. We start building all this in, am I gonna be able to get to my house? That's all I got to say.
All right, any other citizen comments? So I did have a question. So if we table this, if that goes through, does that give them the opportunity to come back and try to fix some of the issues that we were brought up?
The applicant can certainly amend their plans, just like the example that was presented to you before with the convenience store. That was one of the things that there was one hearing where we had certain plans, and then at the next hearing we had different plans. So absolutely, the applicant can change.
Now, if they amend their plans, would they need to go back to the plan board and then back to us?
They would not be required to, no.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question of Kirsten? Kirsten, to Mr. Bisher's point, are we better off denying, because that wouldn't say they couldn't come back with something, right? Are we better off denying this and allowing them to come back? Because then if we did it that way, then it would come back to the plan board. Is that correct?
Christy, remind me, I'm not sure, and I could look it up. Do we have a certain time restriction in which they can reapply? I know that some municipalities
I
do.
don't believe we have one for a conditional use. I can double check. I'm pretty sure for rezonings it's at least a year, but that would incur a cost to them. Now, to apply for a conditional use, it's $5,000. So denial would be a whole new separate project, and they would have to go back through the process, back through plan board. We'd have to redo all of the advertising, sign on site. It would be a whole new separate permit number, resolution, all of that, and they would have to pay fees again.
Now, could we, as the body, have it where they do have to go back to the plan board before it come back to us without doing it like that?
Without denying, so the problem with tabling the motion is that it's still in front of you all. So it comes back to you all without any additional action. And if you deny it, obviously those are the restrictions that exist there. I don't know if the applicant is open to coming back to the planning and zoning board, just sort of informally.
We would be open to coming back to the planning board.
So I mean, we could do another meeting of the planning and zoning board for recommendation. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of how we would.
Well, I do know that we would have to do, I would need to check with the Regional Planning Council to see what their recommendation would be on this, because we had notification requirements for Plan Board as well, so
Right,
there
we
had
would
to
have
be
to
signs.
we would
yes.
have to re-advertise absolutely for plan at the bare minimum for planning and zoning as well.
But the city does not bear that cost, just to be clear. It is the developer who bears that cost, so we bill them for the sign and ads and paper, things like that. So no hit to the city, just time, and we would want to make sure we do the right legal process for it.
Right.
So many days prior, things like that.
Mr. Mayor, if I can clarify, if it had to be re-advertised, and I understand it's the applicant that bears that cost, that's not $5,000 though.
Advertising is not $5,000. Reapplying is $5,000.
Right, so the financial impact to re-advertise, if we were able to get it back to the plan board, would be a lot less?
Yes, usually my ads are in the couple hundred range, so
Okay.
200 to 400,
Okay.
depending on how much, how many words. And then the sign, it's in the $30 range.
Okay.
We buy them in bulk.
Okay.
Is that something that the applicant is comfortable with?
Yes, we are willing.
Okay, we could have it tabled with the request that they go back voluntarily to planning and zoning for a recommendation and then come back to you. You'll pick it up. It'll just be after planning and zoning has provided their recommendation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do
Okay.
you need me to modify my motion then?
Sorry.
Yes.
Or amend it? I amend my motion to state that we will table this, and we will ask that you guys go back before planning and zoning before bringing it back to us to answer those questions that we have,
That have been outlined.
that have been
With the applicant's voluntary agreement to that plan.
with the applicant's voluntary agreement.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Sorry,
job.
Angela.
Nice job, John.
All right, because this is a resolution, is it roll call?
No.
No. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, if I may ask, if there's people here that are interested in this and you would be willing to stay for the next item, I would really appreciate you staying just for a few. I don't think it will take as long. Thank you, sir.
All right, new business item number 2, discuss, consider, and act on the ordinance 2026-01.
All right, Mr. Mayor, this is ordinance number 2026-01, an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, providing for an administrative procedure for the review and approval of certified recovery residences consistent with Florida Senate Bill 954, 2025, and federal fair housing laws establishing Appendix B, Article 11, Part 11.19.00 of the Land Development Code, providing an administrative procedure for review and approval of certified recovery residences, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. This is the first reading of this ordinance. Like all ordinances, it's 2 readings. So I know that there were lots of questions, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the questions that have been raised are what in this can we modify, what in this can we not modify, what's required by Senate Bill 954. So I want to touch a little bit on those items. I would say that the vast majority of what you have in front of you, which is the underlined portion, is required by Senate Bill 954. So you have to have certain administrative procedures. So you have the statute in front of you as well, which is statute 397.487. If you go to the third page, it's subsections 14 and 15 that have to do with municipalities. So you really, I mean, the first 2 pages are inapplicable to what Senate Bill 954 had to offer. So it establishes a requirement that you all, essentially, if I'm going to summarize subsection 15, a requirement that you have a procedure for a certified recovery residence as defined under Florida statute, not this section, but different sections where it's defined under Florida statute. For them to seek essentially an exception from insert any land development regulation that you may have based on certain showings. So if it's a requirement in order for them to be able to establish the certified recovery residence, et cetera, and a certain land development restriction that you have in your land development code currently would prohibit that, they have, under this portion of Florida statute, we have to provide them with an opportunity and a procedure to request an exception. And the exception is essentially a reasonable accommodation, right? So a lot of what we are talking about in Senate Bill 954 also sort of interplays with fair housing law, and it interplays with ADA. So that's where you'll see, these title, you see title X, Y, and Z. Those are the federal laws that this interplays with. And a lot of what, obviously, I think everyone has a general understanding of fair housing law, but fair housing law covers lots of different areas like discrimination. ADA covers lots of different areas like accommodation for disabilities or other issues that someone may have. So the portions of this ordinance in front of you that are not required or otherwise set out by Florida law are, and I'm literally going to walk you through them. So on section 11-1901 definitions, number 5, reasonable accommodations, that's not defined in the statute. It's not defined where I can, other than obviously there are definitions under ADA, but those definitions are inapplicable to how it's being used in this statute. Reasonable accommodation is not defined in this statute. This is a definition that other municipalities have used in order to try and put some understanding as to what that terminology would mean. Section 11.19.02, written application process. Everything after the first sentence is not a requirement of Senate Bill 954. So a lot of what we're going to talk about as potential things that you can change is the request doesn't have to be administrative. It does have to be, or the process doesn't have to be administrative. The process does have to be laid out and it has to be clear. So most municipalities have adopted an administrative process. That's what we've seen most often because it's really kind of a nebulous statute. I certainly would not have written it this way had someone asked me to write the statute myself. That's just what we see. You all are free to change that portion of it regarding who is who holds the application, who's reviewing the application, et cetera. We just have to have someone in the city who is doing it. If that be this commission, if that be your city manager, if that be your planning director, whoever you want that to be, you can change those requirements. In section 2, C, D, and F are not required under Florida statute, but they do provide you with additional information in your application that the statute does not require. Number 3, the very last sentence, that's not provided by Florida statute. That is a common term that we've seen in other municipalities who've adopted this ordinance. Number 4, fees. You're not required to waive the fees or costs imposed pursuant to the section under Florida statute. In the next section, 11-1903, number 1 and 2, the only thing in there that is amendable is where it says city manager, you can put a different entity or individual if you choose. Everything else is required by Florida statute, 30 days, 60 days, et cetera. Number 3, failure to provide additional information. Everything before required determinations on the 4th line, that is not That is not provided by statute, but that does provide you additional protections as a city if someone does not provide the additional information that they need. It can be denied. Again, in as it applies to the rest of it, where it says city manager, you could pick a different entity if you so chose. All of Section 5 is not laid out by Florida statute. These are criteria that we've seen commonly in other municipalities in order to just give some framework to what it is that we're looking at here, sort of like the analysis that you all just did on the last item. And then number 8, appeal. You're not required to have an appeal procedure. Everything else is verbatim required by Florida statute. So those are the things that we have a little bit of latitude on, not a ton of latitude, some latitude. So I know that those were the main questions, and I made sure that I highlighted every word that we can make a change to. So happy to answer any other questions. Sorry that took so long to explain, but I wanted to make sure that we were thorough.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, please. I want to just circle this back to the item that was on the agenda prior to this one. My understanding is that zoning of C1, C2, and C3 is where it's appropriate to have one of these residential units by right. Is that correct?
I don't know that we have outlined in our code certified recovery residences.
We don't have that terminology, no. The only thing we have would be like group homes or things like that, but that is a fully separate section in the land development code.
I looked at our code and I read over Senate Bill 954, and my very cursory and non-legal understanding is that, let's say we approved the item on the agenda just prior to this one, that could then become essentially a sober living facility by right. Because it's a multifamily, there's some restrictions in terms of R1 and single-family dwelling units. There's some restrictions in terms of the number of homes in a neighborhood. I don't think, for instance, Edgemoor, I think there are too many homes in there where somebody could legally put this in. But if there's a street that has, say, 10 houses, 5 on each side, my understanding is that somebody could buy one of those homes, call it multi-purpose at that point. They'd have to get it rezoned, or I'm sure they'd have to go through a process, and then set up one of these facilities in a residential neighborhood. Is my understanding correct?
So essentially, yes and no. So right now, that's correct, right? Right now, those are the areas that we could consider, right, like a group home. That's probably where we would categorize it in those C1, C2, C3 areas. This statute essentially says it doesn't matter if I'm trying to think of the easiest way to explain this. It essentially says if you have a land development regulation, whether that be zoning, a parking regulation, whether that be setbacks, buffering, whatever it may be, a certified recovery residence under this new statute has the ability to come in and request that you waive that requirement of your land development code for a reasonable accommodation for them, whatever reasonable accommodation that means under the statute. It's not clear, but that is essentially what this statute provides, is that anywhere, R1 zoning, C3 zoning, wherever it may be, they can come in and they can say, we know that you have this restriction that says we wouldn't be able to put a certified residential recovery unit here. But because of this statute, we get a process to provide you information that shows we need a reasonable accommodation in order to put this here. And then we have to, with the criteria that we propose to you, it's not outlined in the statute, evaluate that reasonable accommodation. And that reasonable accommodation has to do with ADA, it has to do with fair housing, so we would look at it under those requirements. But there's essentially no land development regulation that you would have in place that they couldn't ask that you waive.
And by Senate Bill 954, my understanding is we don't have any legs to stand on to not allow it. We're being told by the state, essentially, is my understanding, just like we were told by the state that solar power plants were permitted by right on agricultural land, we had no ability to say no. That is my understanding of this. We're not, I mean, I'm not opposed to certified recovery residences. Boy, you know, alcoholism can ruin a family quick as anything else. So I support this idea by all means, but are we going to be overly restrictive? We wouldn't want, say, for instance, the blue house, the big blue house. It used to be a rooming house, big, nice, beautiful house, right behind the watershed. We don't want a certified recovery residence behind a bar. But are we being overly restrictive and judgmental by trying to impose that kind of, you know, restriction? I just want to know how much say we have. You know, what about these new duplexes if they go in, and even if there's only 3? I read the regs on certified recovery residences. They could put 2 people in a bedroom. There could be 6 people in each of those duplexes if they had 3-bedroom duplexes. That's a lot of people. So that could have an impact. Can we
They could
go
buy
ahead?
a lot and put a daggone apartment complex on. Fill it up with 50. And I don't know.
But condos are exempt.
I know. It bothers me that I feel like it's an overstep from the state to force mandate this stuff in there, and I don't like it. But I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, it doesn't sound like there's much.
Essentially,
You could say.
how I describe this portion of the statute is that 15A, I think, tells you everything that you need to know about what the intent is and what the requirements are. There's more specifics as you go down, but what it says is the municipality shall adopt an ordinance establishing procedures for review and approval of certified recovery residences within its jurisdiction. And the ordinance must include a process for requesting reasonable accommodations from any local land use regulation that serves to prohibit the establishment of a certified recovery residence, and it has to have a process for requesting a reasonable accommodation for the establishment. So those are the 3 things that it does. We have some leeway in there regarding how we're going to interpret what that is, right? We get to review. We get to approve. It doesn't say you have to approve if it meets these certain criteria. It doesn't say that. We have to have a process for review. We have to have a process for approval. But we kind of get to decide what that looks like. But then it also says that they have to have a process to come through and request an exemption from any of our LDRs. But it doesn't say exactly when we have to provide them with that exemption. So that's where our wiggle room comes in. We have to establish review. We have to establish procedure. We have to establish an opportunity for exemption from certain regulations. In the intermixing of that, that's where we have our wiggle room here. Does that make sense?
It does, but not being an attorney, I'm at kind of a loss here because I don't understand everything you do. Would it be possible, well, first of all, we're going to be in Tallahassee next week, right? Would it be allowable to table this for now, talk to our people next Tuesday, ask them a little bit more about it? I don't know how much pushback they're getting on this. And then could I request that you provide us a little bit more detailed legal memo explaining this? Because the Senate bill was long, and, you know, it appears that there's language in here that is not required. You explained it to me a little bit better tonight in terms of what's required. I don't like being forced. I don't like us not having our own say in our own destiny. Like Commissioner Grunder said, we're being forced, and it's not that we don't want to support this kind of establishment, but we should be able to have some say in terms of where it goes. So, Mr. Mayor, I guess my request is that we table it if possible, obviously a more comment or whatever, but I feel like I need better legal guidance.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion, yes, sir, please.
I'm sorry, I'm still reading.
I'd second that. I'd like more. I would second that. I want more legal Just a little bit of a better breakdown. I don't know. I agree. Maybe we can talk to somebody. I know that probably changes absolutely nothing. It's not going to get us jammed up. I know it says by January 1 of 2026. Are we in, like, obviously we're in violation right now because it's not January 1 of 2026?
Mr. Mayor.
Let me answer that real quickly. Mr. Mayor, may I? So we are not in compliance. We have talked to the state, let them know that we have it up here for first and second reading. There's nobody's out enforcing this right now. We should have it done. I would like to get it done as quick as possible and getting compliant with it. But I don't think, if you decide to table it, I don't think the state's gonna come knock on our door and crush us because we didn't pass this on this reading.
And if they do, we'll schedule quick meetings to get that resolved.
It's easy fix.
Mr. Mayor, the state may not come after us, but if we don't get this done, could we be held liable? Like,
You do run the risk of if a certified recovery residence comes in and puts in an application and we don't have this procedure laid out. I mean, that is a risk. I don't know if we have any rumblings from certified recovery residences.
We're done.
So we'll certainly let you know if we hear any rumblings.
I was just, even with the ADA website's going on right now, I mean, people are out there.
Yeah,
So-
no, agreed.
And like Kirsten said, if something came up and we started hearing rumblings that somebody wanted to open one of these, we could hold the special meetings and get this done in time. We don't want to get caught where they come in and like Kirsten said, we don't have it. But I feel comfortable if you guys want to table it for 2 weeks. I don't think, there's nobody out there with teeth right now enforcing this. That's come from our lobbyists because I asked him the same question. And it's a great question next week to ask them.
People do need to realize I agree with Commissioner White's on this. We're not saying we absolutely do not support facilities like this, but I agree. I think we should have some sort of say as elected officials representing people where in our town we want to put stuff like this.
Well, that was going to be my question. Do we have the right to determine where it would be placed and how many? Like, I'm going to use Bailey Estates down there. Those homes are on top of one another. And we all know that folks need help, but we're talking about like halfway homes, runaway homes, safe houses for folks like that can come in there. How are we going to protect those citizens and yet do the right thing legally? And how many, is there a set number that can go in our communities, in our town, or is it just whatever the state allows? Anybody can come in and do it anywhere in the city?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good question, and I think that the answer is the statute is worded to provide you with the opportunity to put into place procedures for reviewing and approving these certified recovery residences. But it also gives them the opportunity to come in and ask for you to nix any of those requirements if they need a reasonable accommodation. And so it's yes and no is the answer.
So somebody, if they wanted to decide that this goes through, can buy a vacant home that's up for sale and just bring this in any neighborhood under certain guidelines that we see right here. And we pretty much have to approve it.
So I don't think that it goes so far as you have to approve it. You have to put into place an ordinance that provides for you reviewing any request to eliminate a restriction on a certified recovery residence, right? So let's say we have in place 5 restrictions for certified recovery residences that even apply to them. Let's just assume that that's the case. If they came in and they said, hey, one of these, the setbacks, they don't work for us because of X, Y, and Z. It's not saying you have to waive your setback requirement. It's saying you have to establish an ordinance that says they come in and they provide you reasons under ADA, the Florida or the Fair Housing Act, et cetera, why they should not be held to that requirement. And you have to evaluate it. But it doesn't say you have to approve it. It says you have to evaluate it and you have to have a procedure for evaluation. Does that make sense?
So the requirements, would they be made when we do the LDC rewrite? Is that when that would be?
So you're, right now, if you look at number 14, it's sort of a lot of. Let me back that up. Number 14, there's been a lot of talk of whether or not that restricts our ability to allow or not allow until the date outlined in 14. That has to do with the duration or frequency of a stay in a certified recovery residence. We don't have any requirements or restrictions on that now. I don't really know why we would want them in our LDC or why we would need them in our LDC. I imagine some cities or municipalities probably do for X, Y, and Z reasons. So 14 doesn't restrict us. There is still that requirement that no additional restrictions be placed in your LDC for a certain period of time. Nothing more restrictive than currently exists. And so that's something that we're evaluating with the LDC. But certainly is something that your planning team would look at regarding how we're going to evaluate these certified recovery residences. And that's more a planning decision and an LDC sort of rewrite decision or interpretation decision.
So what kind of guidelines should we do to protect our citizens? Because they're going to get upset.
Sure.
So, and then we're going to be faced with dealing with that. So what is going to be our legal obligations to our citizens to protect their, we're talking about property values, now where are we going? I believe it's going to be a nightmare and very upset folks. So how are we going to, how should we address it? What is legal or attorney wording we should go that direction? Or how do we handle this?
So
is that too much of a question?
It's not really the issue is it's not so much a legal question as it is a question for your planning advisors, right? Of what are other municipalities, where are these being zoned? What zoning restrictions are being placed on them? What kind of setbacks? What kind of buffering are you requiring? Those kinds of things. And so I can absolutely look into what other municipalities are doing. I would certainly want to work with North Central Florida Regional Planning Council and see what they know about what other municipalities are doing. But that's in regards to, we're sort of talking about two pieces.
So when you just said buffering, it just struck my nerve. So are you saying we could put limitations now? They can't come in on a lot that's 100 by 100, but we require an acre of partial. That we can say only way they can come in here is if it's an acre.
We could, but they could apply to exempt.
But we would have the power to decide whether that goes in there, right?
And it's a lot of this is that this statute is not very clear on. I'm not clear of why reasonable accommodation, we've provided you with a definition. And the way that we've defined it is necessary to provide individuals with disabilities an equal opportunity to use and enjoy a dwelling consistent with the requirements of federal fair housing and disability law. That's how we have placed reasonable accommodation. So we're really angling toward if it's required to allow someone with a disability the ability to access the certified recovery residence, then that would be what you would evaluate. It can't just be that they come in. It doesn't allow them to just come in and say, for no reason whatsoever other than we kind of just feel like it, we would really like to not comply with your buffering and your setbacks. They've got to tie it to some kind of reasonable accommodation need, sort of like you hear with employment and ADA, right? I need a reasonable accommodation in my job, or I need a reasonable accommodation in order to do X, Y, and Z. And so that's sort of what they're able to get those exemptions on. Now, it's new statute, so I don't know how broad those things are going to be. I've never seen a certified resident or recovery residence put in place that I think would affect buffering, but I can't say that that would never happen. So it's just, unfortunately, it's a 2025 statute, and there's not been a whole lot that's been done with it yet. So your legal is flying a little bit as blind as you are. We're just sort of trying to make do as best we can.
So as far as the regulations, that would need to be voted on another time. So that wouldn't necessarily go in the ordinance. That would be separate.
The ordinance that you have in front of you right now essentially just establishes the procedures for requesting for getting the approval, for asking for approval, and the reasonable accommodations. That's all that it sets forth. Everything else is not included in here. So there's nothing that we've sort of ad-libbed. That's really something that we would need to work with North Central Florida Regional Planning Council to get a sense of what are other municipalities doing. I mean, correct me if you think I'm wrong, Christy. So definitely part of the plans, just like phase 1, phase 2, part 1, part 2.
We have a motion on the floor. We'll take citizen comments.
Taxpayers' viewpoint, not not the planning board. If you all remember what I did, I worked in Miami, Florida for almost 30 years, fire rescue. So I'd like to tell you the beginning of this history. I got hired in the 70s when this stuff was just coming about, just starting under Section 8 housing federal, and then the states get involved and it became state statutes. This bill was passed, from what I understand, July 2025. It's just getting to North Florida. So, Miami, okay, so let me stick to the point here. Here's what happened. Fire rescue, police, the first time you roll up on one of these things, once it happens, wherever it's put in your neighborhood, it's a house. We didn't know, the fire department personnel didn't know this was taking place. We didn't go to our county commission meetings. We weren't following the Section 8 housing. It just happened overnight. You get a call, you respond to a house, take the people that were here tonight, their residential neighborhood. Fire rescue comes in with 2 vehicles. The police come in with a vehicle if it's drug related, if it's a drug recovery resident. Fire rescue, EMS, whatever, if it's ALF, if it's assisted living facilities for older people. You come in at 2 o'clock in the morning with your lights and sirens going, you wake up everybody in the neighborhood, they go, what the heck is going on, including the fire department. And then you find out that the state has imposed on you all their responsibility. Up until the time this stuff started, the states built facilities. The federal government built facilities. If you know the history of Asheville, North Carolina, they had tuberculosis buildings, facilities all over the city of Asheville. It almost destroyed the entire city in the turn of the century. History lessons from an old guy, okay? I went through this for 30 years almost, from the beginning to the end. The end was like locusts and plagues. It destroys a residential neighborhood. The first one that comes in, everybody goes, what the heck, including fire and police. It doubles, triples, quadruples their call. It costs the city more money. Who manages it? They call them administrators. The administrators sit in a chair 12 hours and watch these people in the house. If there's a problem, you know what they do? They call 911. 2 or 3 times a night, we would run these calls at the same house. Lights, siren to the same house. We knew where all these homes were in our territories, wherever we were in Dade County. You only have 1 fire station here. Right now, there's 2 ALFs in High Springs, Plantation Oak and Fairview. They're gated. They have security. There's a rotunda there for the fire trucks to pull in, or the rescue trucks. You get to a residential area, there's not going to be any of those facilities. Think about this long and hard before you, and you can push back on the state. You can push back on the state. It's their responsibility, facilities.
I'm Lynn Jameson. I'm a former ESC director, Exceptional Student Education Director up in Columbia County, and these homes were all over Lake City. People take in children, adopt them. Yes, we need these homes. They're in neighborhoods. I visited many of them. They take the children in, adopt them a lot of times, or they're put there, maybe by CPS or something. But they make a lot of money doing it. You all need a workshop. You all need to do this right. And we need to make sure we have it right. This law went into effect January 1st of this year. We're way behind the 8 ball. And it was approved in June of 2025. So y'all got to get it right and you need a workshop. This doesn't need to be a quick, we're going to just throw this together. Because it will, I agree with him, it will ruin a neighborhood. And you have kids that are delinquent, criminals, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I lived it up there for 16 years, so it's concerning, but y'all need to get it right. Thank you.
Sue Weller. I just want to ask a question based upon what Lynn said and the fact that I just looked this up and it was passed in June of '25, effective January 1st. I don't understand why we're just finding out about it. You could, I mean, if you had known about it, you could have been having your workshop and working this out as to how it was going to be addressed.
Yeah, I'm happy to address that. So I know that this is the first iteration that this commission has seen, and obviously there are still lots of questions. When this first passed, there were 16 times as many questions, and we have spent that period of time trying to put together what we have in front of you. So we've definitely not just been sitting on our thumbs. This has been, probably the 15th, 16th iteration of this as Danielle and I have worked on it for a while. So it's a lot of work has gone in to make sure that we get exactly what we need. But obviously, I mean, there's still questions outstanding.
Any other citizen comments? I did have one question. Section 8 housing is actually different than recovery housing, right?
Certified recovery residence is a separate and specific definition under Florida statute, and so it's different than Section 8 housing is sort of much broader as a category than certified recovery residence is very specific.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, there's a lot going on. I just want to make sure this law has got nothing to do with allowing them to come in. It's about the procedure, correct?
And the exemptions.
And the exemption of, okay.
Procedures and
Okay.
exemptions, exactly. It requires us to have a process. It requires us to have
Perfect.
criteria.
Okay.
All right, any other commissioner questions? All right, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, city attorney report.
You guys are probably sick of me by now. Danielle and I are working on your updated, we're going to do an addendum with Waste Pro. So that should be on your next agenda. We're working on finalizing that. Otherwise, happy to answer any questions.
City manager.
Just a reminder, on Saturday from 10 to 12, the Arbor Day celebration and giveaway, they're going to be planting, the tree advisory board are going to be planting over at the Civic Park from 10 to 12. Also a reminder, sports registrations are open. We have NFL flag football, soccer, volleyball, Babe Ruth baseball, and softball. So follow the Facebook page for Parks and Rec and check out the calendar. And lastly, our Public Works Department got a FDEP Resilient Florida Program grant of $250,000 to do a comprehensive vulnerability assessment. So we will be moving forward with that.
All right, Commissioner Howell.
Commissioners, I'd like to thank you for indulging me today with our workshop. I know everybody was a little worried, and it probably, I don't know, that was the first one. I don't know if you guys have ever agreed to another one, but, ultimately, we got some things out of the way, and, if we do have one in the future, maybe we're talking about things such as our opinions on this and different questions that we may have for something like certified recovery homes. And, it's just, this is where we have to have our conversations. It's just a lot easier to have it right before or during a meeting. So thank you again. I appreciate it. That's it.
Commissioner Grunder.
You're welcome, Commissioner Howell. I do not have anything.
All advice. I'm sorry.
I promise I'll be quick. She scooted out of here, but I just wanted to give mad kudos to our Parks and Rec Director, Jennifer Appleby. She represented the city of High Springs as an affected party in the city of Alachua at their 2 plan board meetings that totaled 11 and a half hours. She went to the first one last Tuesday. It went 6 hours, and she got us declared as an affected party. She didn't have to come back to this past Tuesdays, but she did. And Kirsten, you would have been proud of her for her cross, for her rebuttal, and for her closing statement. She absolutely represented this community with just gusto. And I think she said something in her closing along the lines of, "We speak for the Springs because they have no mouth." She was phenomenal. So, and I'll just let you all know that the special exemption permit in the city of Alachua for the Mill Creek Sink stormwater pond design was denied 4-0. So, thank you, sir.
All right.
So I was just curious, I've heard the LDC and all that this week and some other comments. So where are we at on our LDC? You mentioned that we didn't go with what staff recommended, that we thought that y'all could work with these folks. Now, is it not going to be possible that these folks can't do the job?
No, they're doing fine. I'll let Christy give you a better update, but they're finishing up the analysis, which is the first part. We hope to have that, I think, by the end of next week. Is that right, Christy?
Yes, so I emailed her this weekend, or this weekend. She emailed me this week, and she said that she was finishing up the analysis. She would be sending it within a few days. And then she asked if we were available, I believe, the second week in February. So we'll be getting a meeting set up to talk over whatever her analysis may show. We absolutely can work with her. I had been a little concerned because I hadn't heard from her during a period of time. When we left for holiday, and then I had tried to follow up via email. So there was a little delay, but that could have just been she was working hard and there was a holiday. So the fact that we've heard from her now, I'm comfortable. We're okay.
And with the LDC, is this where we get the opportunity, excuse me, to determine what size lots we can go down?
Yes,
The
there
minimum
is-
or maximum or whatever that wording may be used for?
Correct. So there is, now granted, it has to match what our comprehensive plan has set forth, because the comprehensive plan is the big idea, and then you use the LDC to enact it. So it does have to match, but there is a required dimensions table. It does go into lot sizes, setbacks, for all the different categories. So yes.
And I guess that would be part of the duplex development in that little area there as well. Is that part of what we're going to try to update?
The required dimensions, yes.
Yes.
We definitely need to update that. We have already identified issues with it prior to even having the assessment. We know it's not functioning as needed. So it will be updated. And granted, I don't have a schedule for you yet, but we will have workshops, a bunch of meetings. It's just, I have to have that assessment from her, and we have to meet with her to set up all these different meetings. So until we've
I
met
guess
and
that's
she has
what
a
I want to
schedule.
make sure is we're getting the information that we can vote on.
Of
to
course.
know that changes have been made, and with the lot sizes or anything else that's going to be changed during that time.
Right, you all will see a lot of we have to go through this process first, get the workshop scheduled, get all the feedback, then we change things in the code. It's a full rewrite, so we're not just picking pieces out of it. We're scrapping the whole thing and making a new one.
Thank you.
All right, and just to piggyback on that, so originally the staff requested Giovanni and I forgot the name of it, and then we found out during that meeting that their rating was very low, and then they necessarily didn't want to go with that company after they found out. So it's not that we didn't go with staff recommendation, because staff, the original recommendation that they had, they didn't want to go with either.
I was thinking that we went with this one because the other one was so expensive, and that was the one you wanted to go with, right?
There was three.
It was
There
originally
was
three.
You had McGrath,
McGrath.
KCT, and Giordani. When we first were talking, budget was the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
They were the cheapest one. Then we found out the reviews are bad. We scrapped that, and it came down between McGrath and KCT. McGrath was very much more expensive, but they were more comprehensive and had more experience. KCT's a one-person operation, but she hasn't shown us anything wrong. We had some period of no communication during the holiday, but besides that, I don't think we have much complaints. She's doing her analysis, and once she's done with that, things will start rolling.
Okay.
All right. I don't have anything today. Next meeting, we will be announcing our Employee of the Year. We already know who it is, but we won't tell you.